Right, this is going to be another episode of Snake and Banter. Our guest is a return guest. It is Vu, who I will remind everyone again, there's no reason to, but why not, was a former CSGO Global Offensive mod. Although, as I said on the last one, he was actually a mod in the days when to be a mod wasn't to be some sort of reviled pariah, just roaming the land like some sort of toxic mutant out of Fallout. He was actually in the era where you were just sort of like vaguely a member of society, trying to, do something for your community. Also, he isn't just a streamer and a guy with opinions who gets told by Apex, he doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever, which is straight fire, by the way. There's two things I want to get into here. One is actually now he does the events. In fact, I think more events should hire you, mate. It seems like you've got actually like a sort of, I mean, I don't know, what's it like from your end? Are you vibing with doing events? It seems like you've seemed fairly comfortable on the blast desks.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The only problems are like internal, like I got the very much like, maybe I should just go back to YouTube. I'm not good enough at this because I'm working with
right,
people
imposter
that are,
syndrome,
like,
right, okay,
pros.
fair enough.
Guys, I don't get the privilege of working with someone that sucks, that I can be like, right. I'm so much better than this person.
Okay. True.
But yeah, I mean, it's a ton of fun. Other than like, yeah, I got stuck in Europe for like 3 days because Air Canada was on strike. But other than that, it's fun. Like there's, at least with the Blast crew, there's a lot of really chill people. The vibe's great. It's just great. Like honestly, it's like the funny thing is though that everyone in talent is like, I wish I was like had a YouTube channel. Like that's like what I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, fuck that. I want to like go around. Like I want to travel and talk CS. Sure. Like this is way.
I think the way everyone's just doing grass is greener, thinking like whatever. I don't have to think. I should give me a break. I know what you mean. Both sides think the same thing. That's the other thing I want to bring up though, which is this is how I know you're actually getting a bit of success though at being an analyst pro. Because here's the thing, that famous Oscar Wilde quote, like the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. It's the idea that you're irrelevant for some weird reason. I don't know why. Maybe you have a reason. Why have we now entered the arc where congratulations to you and Austin? You are now no longer irrelevant. The downside is you're now in my domain where you don't just have someone like subtweet you. Oh, mate, subtweet you. That would almost be a dream. They just directly come at you like the most famous pro players in the world and just basically almost tell you like, shit. Basically, you're getting what Kevin Durant's doing to that dime dropper guy on Twitter if anyone follows NBA. You just get roasted by like actually the best players now. And as you've learned, View, you actually played it off quite well. Austin just folded like Superman on fucking laundry day. You just sort of played it off with an irreverent joke where you sort of like played into the bit. But the problem you have in that scenario is because they're so famous, even if your point is correct, you're almost obliged, according to fans, to just like go, oh, yes, my lord, you win or whatever. Because you're supposed to just like take it like you're the bitch or whatever, What did you think of this getting fucking Apex just coming at your head? Are you like that life?
I mean, that was really the point of the tweet, was that like it sounds really bad. Like that's what made it a good tweet.
Yeah,
I think I showed it to Maui beforehand, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a great tweet." Because it sounds bad. So when he responded like that, I'm like, "Yeah, he's just taking it that I think he's boring." And then he responded afterwards and said like something, your problem is downgrading something, and he called me a Twitter whore, and I was like, "Oh well, that's
love it.
That's not great.
Love it.
That's not great."
Let's make that iconic.
I was talking with Mike after Darth Mike, and he was like, you're gonna get Apex on a desk, and he's gonna bring it up, and I'm like, I pray for times like these. Good. Like please get him on a desk and bring it up. I just love the argument. I revel in this until now. I'm getting like 10 French fans respond to every single tweet I have, which is actually really fucking annoying. But Apex responding, that was really fun. Like if he's like wants to talk some trash, I'm like right down for it. I just know that I can't get into a back and forth. I'm losing that. I'm losing a back and forth to Apex because he's got so many fans. But it is like, I had to hit him back with one, and then I knew that there was no winning after that. It's just going to go way worse.
See, that's the thing. It's all fun and games when it's me getting roasted by some super mega pro. You're like, oh, look, it's got run. It's not as much fun when you're the one in the crosshairs. That's all I'm going to say, boys. Because like as we say here, the worst part actually is the feeling of like, we're not even going to now discuss my point. Basically, it's just a popularity contest. You win already. And it's just the question is damage control. Like, how bad do I want to look in this equation? That's why I don't even totally blame Austin. I mean, to be fair though, his did have a distinction, which is, in your case, Apex is just disagreeing with you over like a player opinion, you know. The Austin one was almost like Nico was like, well, actually, what he was trying to do was this, and this. And in that scenario, if you actually disagree as Austin, people absolutely will literally take it that you think you know more about like the mid-round of a T-round than Nico, which is like, you've sort of shit out a luck on that one, mate. Like, at least yours had a fun element to it, you know.
I think Austin was. The problem is, I think he knows he was just wrong on that.
He was too.
Like,
yeah, true.
Yeah. I saw that.
There's also an offhanded comment though. Like people made it sound
yeah.
like he clearly just was fucking co-streaming and just made a comment or something to me.
Yeah, it was a stream clip, and the thing is, I saw it before Nico responded, and I was like, I don't really agree with this, but like I knew that if I said it, he would just be like, yeah, it's a stream clip, it doesn't really matter. The problem is he's not ready for the eyes. He's not like fully vetting everything. And the other thing is, what I told him is, you know what would be fucking hilarious? Just make a video and just be like, yo, Nico was right.
Yes,
but I was right. They have terrible T-sides. Let me explain why their T-side was terrible. I thought that would be the best thing, but I think he just wants to like avoid it, which is understandable.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. But like the most obvious thing you do, I know, is either you do a video. First of all, if you're smart, it's just content either way, bro. You either go, I thought this, but thankfully Nico corrected me. So let's explore what Nico says happened. You do either that video, or I agree with you. You do it and then you make it sound like, but in a way, aren't we all right in our own way? And you add in like a bit of the shit that you said and a bit of Nico said, you know, a little bit of sprinkle, something else on, and then all of a sudden we were all in a way right. So thank you to Nico for joining the discussion, and we look forward to seeing you play. Also, by the way, I will just throw this out there. Here's what's sad. At least I actually know that you used to be a mod, aka corrupt piece of shit, don't care what anyone think of the community. Oh, and you also, as a streamer, have always given more of sort of like an affront-ish vibe. Because here's the other thing as well. Like, low-key, I would actually ascend to another plane of reality if Austin actually did try to clap back. Like, what he should have clapped back is some shit like, are you basing this off how you currently play in Falcons or how you used to play? If he'd have said some shit like that, mate, even though, don't worry, it would be the end of him on Twitter. Like, you'd never be able to open the notifications again. You'd have to mute the tweet. Just for the banter alone of, like, knowing you'd stuck, like, a little, like, dagger in the Nico at his lowest would be fucking glorious. I low-key almost wish he had clapped back. It would have been glorious. Sadly.
I think the problem is if he does that and then Nico like watches that video and is like, by the way, you're wrong about this, that is the end.
Oh, it is.
Career end. You're over. You may as well just retire.
You are right. I haven't thought about it. If he wouldn't do it, but if Nico wanted to also raise the stakes, like like a fucking check all in, if he was just like, here's a whole video on why Austin CS knows nothing about CS, that is just the end. Like, it doesn't even matter what's in the video. You are cooked just from the title alone. Like, the joke there being, they're not going to do it because they're lazy, so don't worry. But the moment we are all fucked is when pro players themselves figure out they could just make a YouTube channel and at any point in time react to our content, reacting to them playing. Luckily, none of them have figured this out, bro. But like, if any of them ever do get the inside track, they could just cook all of us. Because it wouldn't matter about what the points were. The fans would just automatically assume you win because you're Nico or Apex, bro. Like, you just win automatically. It's like when that thing happened when Simple flamed me about Fallen. I just looked at like he had like 1 million Twitter followers, mate. I was like, what's even the point in this? Like, I can't win, can I? Like, go after people don't know I am compared to him. So, whatever. Anyway, let's try on this show to not say things that get people upset. Normally, here's the thing, it's normally not even the guest pro. As I always say, we have this like ridiculous talent pipeline that goes, Maui says something on this show or Hot Take Point Made, play.gg or escorenews.com, write it up as though it's like a manifesto statement by Mauisnake to the world, and then they report it all, and then the joke is Maui goes to the event and instantly knows when he locks eyes with the player, did the player see that news post, or are they just oblivious to the things I've said online? Because that is easily, Maui, the most awkward moment of events.
That is what happens.
Because I've had that. Like, here's the thing. It's usually not even, by the way, the sexy ones people think are big. Mine would always be ones, like, I'd be going up to my hotel room on, floor 13 on my own in the elevator. I'd get out, and as I'm, like, doing the key card on the door, I would see, like, the Portuguese player Fox, or basically it'd always be some player I've only ever flamed, like, never been a fan of, it would always be someone like that would be, like, checking in the opposite room, and you just do that awkward moment, like, should I say something? Actually, you know what? Maybe it's better if I just don't and just leave it for everyone because it's awkward. Like, that's the worst part because people don't realise, Maui, if every fan loves to go, you wouldn't say that in real life. The thing is, we would, but it's just really awkward. Like, there's not really an appropriate moment when you're in an elevator to just start going into why you thought someone shit on T-side and Nuke or something. It's like, it's not really the vibe. So that will always take, that's what really takes stone. It's not making the take. It's having to walk around the event, or as in your case, have them come on the fucking desk when they win the next game and do an interview and you know the whole time. Is he going to bring it up? Is he looking at me like that because he's going to set me up? You have to think that the whole time, bro.
That was totally apparent when I was saying negative things about Magisk on Falcons, and then I saw him at the next event, and then it was just right. We could not. There was no way we were gonna lock eyes.
Okay,
I'll say that it was very different than the normal jovial Magisk that was around the space for the prior 3 years to that.
Also, I'll just throw out there, I do hate as well when pros do that thing like, what the fuck? You used to love me. It's like, yeah, well, you were really good. You play like shit now, you idiot. What the fuck? Like, why would I just say you're awesome now? I'm not just a biased twat. I am biased, but, you know, whatever. What are you going to say?
The problem is if you knew they read it, then I feel like you could make a joke about it. But when you don't know if they read it or not, then it's just awkward.
Why even gamble? What if you said, "Oh, I'm sorry about that thing I said," and they went, well, "What did you say?" You'd be like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
I was in an elevator with Apex after they lost to whoever they lost to at the Blast Bounty. I was in an elevator with their whole team, and I really wanted to say something like, "Who was boring off style now?" But I figured it was better. Okay. There was better times for it. If I was alone in an elevator with Apex, I probably would have brought it up.
Maui, on this show, have I ever told on this show the anecdote about the time Henry G dropped me in it with a pro player at an event like that? I don't think I've ever. I'll tell it very briefly. I'll make a short version. Basically, years and years ago, this is probably like 2018 or 2017 or something. It was way back in the day at a Star Ladder event in Ukraine, in Kiev, and that famous like the one where it's in the cyber arena, and then when you cross over the road is the hotel that everyone stays in. Basically, it's an event we all went to loads of times, like 10 years ago. When we were at this event, it was back when, if everyone can remember, this is way back in the mists of time. North, who obviously was a team I always fucked with because I was an MSL fan, and I knew some of the people who were in their squad. It was when they gambled on their AWPers, that guy MOUZ, if you remember, MERZ, and he was like an up-and-coming player. I think he was even on North Academy before this. And if you remember, the problem they had when he was in the team was he was one of those AWPers that's like super, everything's like a flick shot or like a no-scope. And so that sort of AWPer, you're basically always going to either be insane or you're just going to crash and burn, unfortunately. And unfortunately, in his case, he was trying to join a fucking MSL, like we literally call the tactic from spawn, like you just do this every round, and which obviously is not right, really the sort of right team for him. So basically, anyway, I was one of the people at the time who was like, one of the biggest problems in this team is the MOUZ guy's just not good enough. Like, he's not going to fit the team. You guys are hyping him because he had like, because he was flashy. He would have the odd game that was good. And basically at this event, they had a match where they beat someone. I'm going to say it would be like, I don't know, the old heroic would blame F or something. And some not that great team, just some average team in the Swiss system. And we're coming back. And basically the MOUZ guy, after I've done all these critical comments, has had like the one good series finally on LAN. So I go back to this hotel, which is just across the road. And I have that thing happen where you get in the elevator and you know where it's like, the dinner things on floor one, but the ground floor is like where you start. So I get in on the ground floor. Then I had the classic thing where it's like me and Henry or something are like coming back from being talent. And then, at the floor one where they've been eating at the restaurant, I guess, in comes MOUZ and the manager of whatever North was, or might even have been the coach, might even have been like Rogger or someone back then. They get in the elevator and we have this exact scenario where I'm thinking the whole time in my mind, well, obviously this guy must know I've criticised him. I'm even like mates to some of the other people in his team, but he's just had his good series finally. We're all in the elevator. We're all just thinking the same thing, aren't we? We're all thinking like, should I say something? Should he say something? Who knows why? It's just Henry G's personality. Henry, it turned out, knew none of this information. And so Henry just goes, he's just a social guy. He just strikes up conversation with like MOUZ and the coach guys, just sort of going like, how are you guys doing? Yeah, anyway. And then he goes to MOUZ, he goes, great game though, by the way. And then because Henry said that, right, the MOUZ guy just goes like, well, not sure Thorin would think that. And then Henry goes, like, this is where you just like, on the one hand, it's like, I get it. But on the other hand, it's like, you're such a bad friend. Henry goes, why? What's Thorin said? It's like, I'm just looking around like, is this like a candid camera or something? What's going on right now? I'm even looking for it, like, the numbers like 5, 6, like I'm on like 9, like get to fucking 9 already, like. And so, because in that moment, like I haven't got time, by the way, also to have like a whole breakdown. Why did you say that? And I have to just sort of go, you win, MOUZ. Well done, mate. You get me on this one. And then I have to just leave. And it's like, why did you just drop me in it like that, Henry? You rat. Like, and the worst thing is, I'm not even joking. I don't think he was even trolling. I think he just genuinely didn't know I'd like flamed this guy. But I tell you what, that was an awkward moment because he just fucking dropped me in it like that. And he like.
The problem is like
the bad friend.
For me at least, like if I'm saying a player played like shit, I don't know. I much prefer it if they don't see it. Like I'm not trying to like hurt this guy's.
It's why I personally never tag people on Twitter for that reason, man. I don't really want them to see the notification. Like fire this guy. I think that's actually harsh when people just tag him straight in.
It annoys the fuck out of me. People, I make a tweet about someone and someone asks them immediately.
Oh, I hate
like, dude, it's much better if they don't see this. This is not going to help them to see this. It benefits nobody.
No, that's the bad thing.
That is so Henry. That is so Henry, though. He's not always like, because he's not dialed. He's not thinking of everything every talk show is saying. He's, he's doing the caster bit, and he's also just he's just getting his opinions from the game, and sometimes what he hears on the desk directly before it. So if you said it on a talk show, he's not.
No, exactly.
Every single one. No one really is.
But it's just the way that, like, by being friendly, he's completely dropped me in it. Made me look like a complete mug, and it's just like, well, thanks, Henry. Like, I think he might have even done that thing where when the guy was like, well, Thorin said this thing, he was like, why'd you say that? It's like, why are you talking about? Like, this guy's trash. Like, he just had one good game. It's also, by the way, the one moment where I can't really be like, he sucks, and he's just carried the game. Like, fucking hell. I can't be like, I can't be like, meet me in 3 days in the elevator, then we'll recontextualize your play. Like, you win this one. I had to just turn to the Mertz guy, like, you know what, mate, you win. Yeah, well done, you win this one. Obviously, I could have been
There's no way you couldn't know, though, because it's like, what is Thorin's Twitter?
I know.
What could Thorin possibly have said?
And I have to say, I actually operate like Maui, even though actually in the modern day with like Twitter and the algorithm, to be fair, a lot of people probably do see anything with their name said. I imagine it just feeds it into their algo on the For You page. But I don't assume that like every fucking pro player watches all these shows and reads on my Twitter. Like, I assume they just see like the odd thing that gets on Reddit or something, or that gets into the aforementioned play.gg/eScore news human centipede pipeline, where they don't actually seem to create any content themselves, but their page is full of content, and then I'm making the content and getting nothing for it. So whatever, who knows how that works. But let's make some content that can appear on play.gg/eScore news, gentlemen. So, Vu, to start us off, what is good right now in CS? What do you like?
Yeah, my good point might be a little controversial. I actually think the HLTV rating 3.0 is a really good change. Specifically, I really like the round swing thing and the eco-adjusted stats.
Can you give us and explain it like I'm 5 sort of version? Yeah. What has changed in general?
So I don't know exactly what's changed. I'm thinking specifically there's a button now that you can change that eco-adjusts your stats. So it'll give you someone's rating based on their how they do against eco. I guess it just takes some percentage away from getting eco frags. For example, most players stay about the same, but Mezzy, if I look at him last 3 months, he goes from a 1.13. If I hit the eco adjust stats thing, he goes to a 1.03 rating.
Oh, so he's farming ecos is the implication.
Yeah, the idea is he's farming ecos. Okay. And I think the round swing thing,
we call that the really Imma button, but it does get you blocked on Twitter, so watch out.
His didn't change that much, actually.
All right, fair enough. Okay.
Surprisingly, it didn't change nearly as much as Mezzy. Mezzy's the biggest one I can find. But then the round swing thing I think is huge, because it's another one that I mean, it's not perfect. It's going to underrate certain things. Like, I mean, the the Leadify rating or whatever, overrated clutching. Right. There's problems with it, but you can see like Frozen is way ahead of Elige, for example, on FaZe from round swing. Certain players you can see that they just, I think it's a good move in the correct direction to having stats that matter more than just rating and show a little bit more than just rating. And my biggest gripe for a long time has been, and I almost wanted to do this on one of these episodes when I was on before, eco-fragging just works. Like, if you look at IGLs, so many IGLs have the same exact buy versus buy stats, but you look at them, and I've had people message me on Twitter like, hey, can you look up this guy's stats? When I did my like eco-fragger tier list that basically outed Blame F, they were like, can you look up this guy? Can you look up Cadian was one I was asked to look up. Snappy's a big one, where like his gun versus gun stats, I like Snappy, but his gun versus gun stats are horrific. Right. But he gets a lot of anti-ecos, and so people don't really criticize him as much. And any move away from that towards like understanding CS outside of just looking at the score of the kills that you get. Because the reality is people look at the game at the end of the game and they go, he's got 23 kills. Yeah. I must have just missed it. I must have just missed. He must have done something good. But the reality might be that he got like 20 eco kills. Like, I think any move away from raw kill death stats is a really good thing. And the fact that it shows your TNCT rating now, that's the other thing that I think you kind of had to like, I was shifting through this weird thing at the bottom that sees TNCT. It shows your TNCT. So for example, Elige has a 1.3 T-side rating and a 1.03 CT side rating, which is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. You actually have the stats to back, like, I've always thought his CT sides were weak, but now you have the stats to back it right there. I think it's just so effective.
I am quite glad with most aspects of 3.0. I find that the eco stuff is the most important, but I feel like still some of the methodology behind it could probably... I'll say this. I feel like when I see... They showed the example in the article of Elige falling off in one game pretty significantly for this match he played versus BetBoom, where he had 130 ADR, and I think Brokey had something like 70 ADR. So a difference of about 60 ADR. And Elige predictably had a very high rating with 130 ADR, and Brokey had, an average rating. FaZe had won the map. But then when they used rating 3.0, Elige went from like a 2-point-something rating to then Brokey passed him, but Elige beat him he beat him in kills, he beat him in ADR, but then round swing and the eco-adjusted stats were not in his favor. Like, he kind of gave up some bad deaths on some of the gun rounds. But so I still see it, and I'm kind of like, I think it's a step in the right direction for sure. I think including some sort of eco-adjusted stats needed to be part of the way we think about Counter-Strike, because it was just too good for certain people. Like, EMA, Apex, Blame F,
old school Jim.
Yeah, there were certain people that just the way they played the game was either trying to abuse eco frags to get better stats, or they would play in a way that was so low impact that it should have been addressed, that they aren't really having much of a positive impact on this game. So I'm glad they went through some of those, but when I see the numbers sometimes, I feel like it's not quite as... I guess it's not quite as apparent as the eye test would be, where I still feel like there's kind of a middle ground. It almost feels like whatever they were probably doing, but with 2.1 to 3.0, something in the middle there probably would have matched what I saw the game as a bit more. But also, I think that this just kind of means you have to watch the game a little bit closer. You have to actually really see for yourself, okay, wait a second. Because, if I'm targeting one player and I'm really thinking about them a lot, then I'll be like, oh, he did get 8 eco kills this game, so the rating is a bit inflated. I'm glad that it's brought down, but so Nero was in my chat when I was reading this whole update, and he was telling me something like, tier 1 teams, when they play against full ecos, they're winning over 90% of the time, which is fair. But then he said when they were playing against half buys, it was something like 70-something% of the time. So essentially, if you give up any kills on these kinds of eco rounds, as a gun round player, you are just throwing round swing. You're just throwing it so badly that you're almost like extremely punished now if you die at all on those kinds of rounds. Whereas if you get the kills, you're almost negligibly rewarded. And I feel like there probably needs to be a little bit of a middle ground in my eyes. So that's my take on it. But in general, I think the shakeups at the top are generally for the better. Like, I kind of looked at the 2025 2.1 stats versus the 2025 3.0 stats, and it's still most of the same players are in the right positions, I'd say. Or like,
was there a surprising one?
The big jump up, I think, was Heavy God. Like, I always rated Heavy God very highly. I was talking about Heavy God when he was on OG on one of our podcasts.
Yeah, certainly.
So I've been super high on him. I'm surprised that he's this high. I'm a little bit surprised that Twist jumped up as much as he did when Liquid are just almost not winning at all. It feels hard to believe that he could be that high when they just don't win games. So I guess but I don't know. Like, I think that there's some towards the eye test that makes sense that they drop. Like, I even said at the last event, I was like, Device's eye test is actually pretty poor for the rating that he has. And so it thankfully dropped, and I'm like, okay, that confirms my bias. But then some of the other ones that moved up or down in ways that I didn't really foresee kind of make me rethink it a little bit.
By the way, I know what you mean. Like, actually, that latter point that you make there is also why I'm in favour of having, like, these advanced stats that we now have for CS. I will say, from knowing sports where they've already done a lot of this stuff, people will like try all the bells and whistles and new stuff now, but they'll very quickly just decide, just like they did with rating before, what their favourite stat is, and that'll just become the new metric for everyone and everything. And they will again treat it like it is the god stat, and it's totally right, and it definitely knows who's better and all. Because if you notice, the main problem humans have, it's a bit like this shit where at the moment they take what are like glorified fucking Google searches that are called AIs, and they actually talk to it like it's 2001. Like, Hal, please open the pod. Like, it's a fucking search, mate. It's not real. Like, they're just pretending So I do think people treat rating like that. They treat rating like that's like God saying, Actually, he was better than the other guy. It's like, it's just a fucking formula. But I actually think these are more lenses and more tools to apply. And actually, I like the ones that you're saying at the round swing one, mate. Like, there's no version of this for whatever reason, but I actually think that B-Trams guy came up with his own fun lens with the whole Bozo rounds thing, man. I think that actually is like an interesting angle to look at teams. Like, how often do you essentially throw the round when you have the numbers advantage, or how often do you get the kill, get you back in the round with a number disadvantage? These are actually more interesting lenses than just raw, like how many kills did you get in a game, even just how many equals you get. Here's one of our problems with the whole equal thing. I said this famously to always defend device in CSGO, which is that, like, a bit like what you're saying about equal round stats. It isn't CS 1.6 in 2003. Every person doesn't easily kill 5 Glock players running their CT spot. Like, in the modern day with, like, remember, we consider buying a Tech 9 and a smoke and a flash, like, a fucking save. Like, if that's a save, that can fuck a lot of players up. And if you're in the small site, you're not even expecting to necessarily kill all 5. Like, they might even get the kill and get the bomb down. So first of all, killing ecos does have more value than it used to in old CS. But actually, the more important thing to me that I hope these sorts of stats will give you a sense of is, like you're saying about Snappy, it's like, who is almost aware of how the old box score works and is trying to fill in like junk stats and pad their stats a little bit. Like, there are people who, with ecos, that are the equivalent of that season that Russell Westbrook won the MVP, where he 100% was telling people who were bigs, who were like this close to the ball, like, let me get that defensive rebound because no one's going for it, like, just so I can have another rebound and get the triple double. He definitely did do that. And I tell you what, there are clearly some players in CS who tell their teammate, basically, like, just sit back and let me get all these ecos, or like, let me get I need some kills. Like, that's the problem I have, is if you're doing that to, like, essentially keep your job, that not only is not very valuable in the game, but like, I want to, like, know when that's happening. So I think actually a lot of these look interesting. I have to say, it's going to be hard to know when to use some of these stats and filters, but I think it already looks into, like, just the eco part alone. I mean, I think Yanko said this, bro, that's something we've all been asking for 10 years. It's like, is there a way we can make the rating, like, adjust for, like, do you have a gun? Do they have a gun? How much was spent? How much health? Like, these are, I think those are the ones that get closer to, like, the number can tell you something. For right now, I actually think the fun thing is, for my way of using stats, is even better, because I'm looking, like you're talking about, for the ones where it's like, oh, there's a big drop off here, because then you can go watch that game and see, like, oh, was it like empty calories like you're saying in a device demo? Because I do think there is an area there that stats have never quite worked, which is, everyone knows this famous example I'm about to give, which is Simple and Ziwu. If Simple and Ziwu have an off game for them, the stats look the same on the paper as, like, the best game, like, Shiro could ever have. You know what I mean? Like, or, like, you know, insert an average ass AWP or just above average AWP. But if you ever watched those games, if Shiro did get those numbers, his demo would look amazing. If you watch Simple and Ziwu get those numbers, they'll look shit. It'll look like they're not even getting any kills. What the fuck? Can't they get in the game? And at the end, you do tap the scoreboard and go, how did they get 20 kills? So I agree that stats have never worked as, like, a uniform thing in that sense. So I actually think some of these look pretty good. By the way, last thing to say as well as this, I did like a lot of the people at HLTV, though. It's only been out like a day, guys, but I was already laughing so hard that the same fans who said, look what I've just said, like, please give us stats that aren't based around just the team winning the round or me having more kills on the scoreboard. The second you introduce an actual, like, adjusted stat, they go, but this guy had more kills and his rating's lower. It's like, oh, bro, please. It's like that old famous thing, you know, that Henry Ford, you know, when they say, it's like, if I'd have asked my customers what they wanted, they'd have just said faster horses. It's like that. You guys don't know what you want. You don't even know what you want. All you've done now is just spend the whole time like, but he got, like, but he had less ADR. How could he have a low rate? Like, nah, give me a break. Get me out. I mean, get me out.
People were blaming it on MR12 at the start of CS2, if you remember, right, like, people having bad stats, but having, like, a better rating or whatever. It's the litmus test, actually, to say, like, why I like this is I actually looked at NAF, because I had this stat of NAF that this season, he's there. Well, I haven't rechecked it recently, but he was their highest rated player on gun versus gun rounds. But if you watch the games, he would get a lot of kills, and then he would just int, like, horribly rounds, like, so bad, like, just unbelievable losses. And so I went on his stat, and he's got, like, the worst round swing I've seen of any non-IGL. And I was like, all right, there's a good stat. Like, it can tell that NAF, he gets kills on gun rounds, but he's, like, not actually doing a good enough job. And that was, like, my real litmus test for how good this was. I didn't actually realize there was a an article on this, which is actually interesting. But I think we're really going to understand the round swing thing once we realize what it prioritizes and what it denigrates. You know, like what is it? Underrating entry fraggers? Is it overrating clutchers? Is it overrating AWPers? And then once we understand that, then we can kind of balance that against what we're expecting. Right now, it's like I'm just kind of going through the stats and I'm seeing like, do I agree with this? Do I not agree with this? Like, let's look into it. But I think it's a move in the right direction. It's not perfect, but it's a move in the correct direction.
Oh yeah, one last thing as well. Luckily, I actually have self-awareness, fans. I, like you, I'm just a fan, just human, just mortal occasion. I have my own foibles and flaws. So like the ZEMU fans out there, there were certain times where, for example, when they showed that, like with the new stats, actually, it's not as crazy a difference between when Duncan and ZEMU play bad, whether their team wins or loses. Whereas before that stat was like, there was like a 0% win rate for Spirit if Donk played badly. When I see that, part of me goes, what's going on with this stat? This stat seems like it might be miscalculated. But unlike a ZEMU fan, I don't actually go, this is all, they've reverse engineered it. They're just trying to make him look bad, aren't they? Like, I just understand, like, maybe I can accept there's a different lens to looking at the game that I didn't acknowledge before. So it's all good. We'll all grow and adjust to it. And then there'll be a rating 4.0, we'll go mad.
Let me get one ZWoo shot in. If you look at rating adjusted stats, his rating goes from 1.29 to 1.22. Donk, it barely even moves. He's just better.
What we'll never know is how did MonolZ's father do that. We'll never know. We'll never know how he managed to. Because what's weird is this didn't even help MonolZ. He's supposed to be yelping, "Don't go, you idiot! What are you doing?" But anyway, it's all good. Right, go there, Maui. Let's move on. Then. What is your good point?
Yeah, I mean, before I was gonna do something on rating 3.0, but I mean, I had to switch that one up. I kind of have two things that I think are good. One's kind of a low hanging good. The other is an incredibly self-serving one, which I haven't done for a while. I haven't done an incredibly self-serving one. Okay, the incredibly self-serving one, and we don't really talk too much about the talent space or anything like that. I mean, it's been a while since since I've just glazed a TO essentially, which usually I like to do because they hire me and pay me. But this time around, I'm just gonna say this is a good point. I'm not gonna reveal anything about who's hired for what or anything like that. But this is a standard that I haven't seen very consistently. Other than ESL signed a handful of people to multi-year contracts a few years ago. But PGL actually reached out to a lot of broadcast talent for everything for the next year. So everything that's actually going on for the next year, which, I mean, wow. Even Blast, who I get hired by very regularly, I'm usually hearing at most like 6 months in advance from them at best. And so to hear over a year in advance for stuff coming out from PGL, I think these guys are setting a really good standard. I think this is kind of what a lot of us have been asking for as talent for a very long time, just a little bit more clarity regarding what we're going to be doing so that we're not on the hook, because there's been TOs I've worked for in the past that have messaged me within 10 days of the event. And then I just have to kind of change my entire plan coming up and just basically drop anything that I was going to be doing that week, because now suddenly I'm hired for an event. And so that was obviously a horrible precedent, but for PGL to reach out this far in advance, it's almost just a shout out to them. And I didn't even get hired for every event. You know, they didn't give me the whole, They didn't suddenly just say, you're doing every single event with PGL, and that's why I'm praising them. In fact, there's a few people that I know got hired for more events than me. So it's not like I'm just saying this because they're giving me everything. I'm actually just saying it because thank you for letting me know what my schedule is a year in advance, because then I can plan my life like a regular adult.
What do you think?
I agree. I mean, I agree. It is. I mean, in my case, it means I know I'm not getting hired by PGL, but I already knew that, so it doesn't really make any difference for me.
But it means you don't have that fake hope torturing you, though. In a way, that's good, right?
I never have any hope to begin with. I begin from a stance of no hope. When I hear talent talk about it and the way their lives have to be, I mean, the thing is, like, no fan is going to give you guys any like credit for it, but it is kind of fucked up when you hear, like, especially like Anders talk about what it was like back in the day. Like, he's trying to raise a family, you've got kids, and it's like you don't even know if you're getting hired to the next event like weeks out, like a month in advance. How are you supposed to plan a family vacation, plan anything? And it's a great job and it like pays well and it's awesome to travel the world, but at the same time, like, that is why talent and like players as well, like have age out. They always age out. It's like these types of problems. So anything that keeps the top talent around for longer, the best of the best, I think it's good for the scene.
This is actually obviously, like Maui said, it's more his jam for this one. I'll just say this. One is that is what essentially everyone who's talent has wanted for the whole time. It's not even, one thing that was always missed was, this is where talent have to learn, like, that the whole purpose of like a free market approach, if indeed that's what you would claim this is that unfortunately you don't give up your hand completely to the other person. So they've always wanted the TO to just tell you like, oh, but if you do that, you have to realize they consider it a feature, not a bug, that you're uncertain and you're not certain. You can't quite know what you're committed to and what you're, because that way they can also like keep you off kilter. They can get you to reduce your rate a little bit right before an event when they need to tighten the pocketbook, or they can replace you if there's some sort of a problem. So unfortunately, I get why they did that, but the difference is, as far as I know, it was only ESL actually did, and even then it was only the real like mainstays. A couple of them got the long-term contracts, and I do think it is a game changer. Like, it just takes that off. It's the same as getting like enough salary as a pro player. You still have to worry about the results, like your performance, but you don't have to worry about the idea you're going to eat next month. That's taken off the table. Like the basic, level one of the Maslow hierarchy of needs is taken care of. Food, shelter, all that jazz. You're moving up to the next level. So I will say that's good. Also, like in the Anders case, the other problem is it's not just the idea of like, is my career not going anywhere if I don't get hired? You also might just have no income for a fucking quarter of the year or something crazy. So I do think, like, if you know in advance, at the moment I have no work scheduled in like 4 months from now, you've got time to pivot. You can hustle, you can do something else in the industry, you can work a different angle. You can even, if you just want to take a step down, you can go do loads of Tato online tournaments that you couldn't have committed to before because you worried that you were going to get this one event and then you'd have to cancel everything. And then lastly, I'll also say, I do also think that this might actually lead to better actual content on the broadcast. Because I can tell you in the past, another problem has been the perception that if they too strongly align their brand with yours on things like skits and funny segments, well, then you do have a bit of leverage over them because they're going to need you back for the next skit or the next like segment or whatever. And in this case, if you have signed someone up for a year, they could do something with Maui now where it's like Maui's fucking up and comers or some angle, or they could have, if you indeed had an hero type person on the desk, which I would do, you could have him explain some stats data. You can actually make like longer term content because you've got a long term relationship with the person. And I think it's just, by the way, I think there's no downside to it personally. Like, the joke is, even as Vu pointed out, even if it means you know you aren't getting hired, in a way, knowing that's actually valuable too. It's way better than just thinking there's even a 10% chance they're going to call you out of nowhere if they in fact have no plans to do it.
The point about aligning with certain TOs is nice because, in all honesty, like sometimes. Because when I every time I worked with ESL, I really did feel like kind of a hired gun. Like throughout the 3 years that I was really working with them, and now not really hearing a peep out of them, it was kind of, I was always kind of hesitant on my own intellectual property in a way. If they, for like, I went for one EPL where they were doing skits, and they were like, oh, okay, and if you have any great skit ideas, let's hear them, and it's like, so what? Then I don't get hired for the next one, and you just use it at the very next EPL that I'm not at. Like, I'll pass on that. That's not really my thing. So yeah, for knowing that I'll be, once the talks are all finalized as they sort everything out, that I'll be hired for X amount, then I'll give you actually end up giving more effort because then you know that, hey, yeah, I am on these. So, and I want to take I think the one thing that I think some TOs are afraid of is that they're afraid that nobody takes any pride in their work. If they're afraid of that aspect, that they just want, because if they have the cynical idea that everybody is just there to show up, do the bare minimum amount of work, and then collect a paycheck at the end of the day, then then you can think, haha, I'm already signed for X amount of events, and you can't do anything about it. And yeah, there will be some bad actors. You don't hire them for the extended contract again once you see that you have that perception that they're putting in less work. But but for the people that do care a little bit more, that are hungrier or really are just prideful people, those are the ones that are going to actually put more of an effort. They're going to say, I want to have a recurring segment that's going to be structured like this, that'll give some flair to the broadcast, and people can expect to see it when I'm on. Those are the kind of people that hopefully TOs end up aligning with themselves with in the future.
I'd say one positive that is like, self-servingly, it's a negative, but I think overall for the community, it's a positive. Is that I hope that we'll see if we do have like an amount of like analysts and casters knowing their schedule, they'll be able to find time to make content, to make YouTube channels, to get on podcasts and the stuff that you don't see enough, because I think the way I hear people talk about it now, it's like you get time off and you have to savor it. It's like, well, you don't know when that time off is going to be over. You've really just got to savor it. But now you might know, okay, I've got a month or two off. Like, let's make some YouTube content. Let's find something to do on the side that's going to be effective. And although it might hurt my bottom line potentially, I think it's probably a good thing for the scene. So I think that's like a definite positive if the scene moves in that direction. Because right now I'm just hearing it's PGL doing that, which is a step in that direction, but I think one TO is probably not enough to really move the needle that much. Sure. But you can tell me if I'm wrong.
No, and by the way, I also agree with that point too. Like, by the way, it's actually one of the reasons why people like Maui and Tech Girl actually don't get credit for how much content they create at and after and before events. Because, mate, I don't blame the person. If you've just done like 3 weeks on the road, then when you come home, you don't just actually have an open week like the person at home thinks. You might have already planned, like, I'm going to meet my parents on this night. I'm going to go see my girlfriend on this night. Maybe I want to see a movie or a fucking play or something, or have a night with the boys back up. Well, that's going to be like a week taken up there. So they might think, oh, you got time off. It's like, you have to have some time off for real, though, not just time off that's a full-time content creation. And then lastly, here's why you also want to know in advance that you can work with people long-term on certain pieces of content. Because there was that really interesting piece of content that ESL was doing, that sort of Lord of the Rings skit, which bizarrely, it's just been sort of discontinued. It's almost like they had a casting error on it. So, well, whatever. Anyway, moving on. So, certain people too iconic can't be recast. Look it up, guys. You'll figure out the joke if you do. But anyway, let's move on to my good point now. Right, mine's actually a very simple one. It's one that people have just missed, which is, if you remember, if you go back, like even something like 3 or 4 months ago, on this show on Hot Take Point Made, one thing we've always done is group together MongolZ and Aurora, or Eternal Fire, because they were always in that same position, which is they always used to be like the playoff team. They were all at the ranking would be like, 5th, 6th or 7th in the world, but you knew they'd never make the final. You knew they'd never like win the tournament. They were always blow it. But I always thought the most interesting thing was they actually had a different profile though, which is Aurora had the crazy ceiling and could literally beat the best teams in the world, but also lose to like completely random shitters. They had no business. But MongolZ was always the one that was actually like really consistent. They would beat like everyone below them and then just lose to everyone above them. And if people don't know, the reason why actually even that major run doesn't look that legit is because to get to the major final, they just beat FaZe Clan with Simple and fucking Rain, and they beat Pain. Like, they didn't have to ever beat any top team. So if people don't know, there was a stat before they beat Vitality at this last tournament that said that they had... I think against the top 5 teams, there was something like 3 map wins and like 15 losses. So outrageous number that just implied they never beat the top teams. They're like the ultimate gatekeeper, where it's like, if you can beat them, you're a top team, but they never do like upset, Well, bro, they've done it now. And that win against Vitality, by the way, this is what I picked as my good, that MongolZ did it. They actually beat Vitality straight up in a best of 3 on LAN. It wasn't some like, lol, it's a Swiss game, or we're still like, it was like, that was an important match that Vitality needed to win the tournament. You just actually flat out did beat one of the best teams. I think that is like a massive positive sign. Like that's pretty for me, that's bigger growth than making the major final, but then it's like an asterisk, like, yeah, but who did you play and what was the bracket? I think this is just good news. Like, I like MongolZ, I'm a fan of theirs. I was worried that they were a little bit toothless. Like, I did that episode of Feed the Trolls, Steels flamed them even though they made the major finals. I can tell you that wasn't a very popular episode, but now there's actually a reason to believe in them. Like, now by the way, now not only have they actually beaten a good team, but 2, Senzu actually does show up most of the playoff games now. The 9-10 guys are a bit dodgy still, but in general, they actually are sort of like for real now. They're not. I thought they were a little bit fugazi before. Thoughts on MongolZ beating Vitality, Vu?
Yeah, I mean, I think Vitality isn't the same team we've seen before the break. True. So I think we're kind of like rating this as like this insane victory when it might not be as good as it is on paper. But when you actually look at the way they played, I think they played really, really good CS. And I've always really liked MongolZ. One of my like gripes is when people like MongolZ play a style. I'd say it's like kind of reminiscent of like the Virtus Plow back in the day. Yes. It's very much like you're just going to take a lot of fights and sometimes you're willing to, the way I would describe it is that people don't get the concept that like you in a 3v1, for example, you're going to lose like 10% of them. There's almost nothing you can do about it. Yes. So sometimes you can play it in a completely alternative style and it's just as good. The problem is when you lose, you look like a total idiot because it's like it's just like, well, why didn't you just play it in the standard way? But it's like if you just recognize like, hey, we're gonna lose some of these rounds no matter what. There's nothing we can do to stop that. So let's just maximize our win rate. Similar to how like nowadays pros understand you're fighting against pistols. You don't always have to take a 2v1. You can play a long range fight against a deagle. If you die, you're gonna die once in a while. But that's just the reality of it. If they can't collect your gun, it's still an okay engagement as long as it was a good fight. I think Mongols play late round scenarios and some mid round scenarios like this, and it looks bad. And so it's so easy to criticize them when it goes wrong. But I actually think it's like a really good style of CS that is like really effective, especially it's like very off brand. So teams struggle to adapt to it. And I've just been kind of depressing watching Mongols go into like so many playoff series and just really disappear. And unfortunately, they kind of did it in the final against Spirit as well. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily Senzu, but I mean, Techno had like this incredible performance for his like roles and his level. He played quite well. He's actually their highest rated player in the final, but 9-10 was just missing every op shot. And it's just disappointing to see that. But I really like to see the growth. And that gives me actually like faith for this team that I think I said at some point, we're talking about the top four. I don't think they're the number 3 team, but the way I described it was that I think by the end of the year, I think they're going to be possibly ahead of MOUZ. I think that's like a reasonable take. And up until now, I would have been saying they're like, I'm losing faith in them. Like they were almost kind of occupying, they were getting close to occupying a VP territory where it's like, yeah, they might play a nice game of CS, but like, do I want to ever like cheer for them or hope that they win a game? No, because I know that they're just going to disappoint me. I think they've actually like turned that around. I'm like, I really love Mongols as a team.
Yeah, I feel like the Mongols are to beat Vitality. Vu already aptly put that it's a slightly different Vitality that we're getting in this season. But for the Mongols, I guess the surprising factor about them as they've grown throughout the last 9 months is that they feel to be nearly a lock to make playoffs. I think they messed up on, say, like Lisbon earlier in the year, but they're going to make playoffs, and they have the ceiling to now take down pretty much everybody. I mean, yeah, they haven't taken down MOUZ or Spirit in a series, but to take down Vitality is not easy, and hopefully they're just progressing with it. I'm super curious what they're going to do tomorrow versus Vitality, but I don't know. I always get brought back to the discussion of like how they play and is it the most soundproof way to play, airtight way to play a game? Like the answer is no. It's a lot of it's focused on individuals. A lot of people take individual liberties, but it's not completely just random that they're doing some of these things. They're not just pugging every single round, and sometimes their CT sides get away from them because a few too many people make too many individual moves. But you could say that about every single team this entire year and for the past 5 years. Like I feel like it's completely overblown that they have bad fundamentals or anything like that, when what wins them so many rounds you would also consider to be bad fundamentals. And then also I do it as a joke sometimes just to piss people off in green rooms. I'm like let's just look at all the bad fundamentals in this round, and then I'll just point out, oh, Rop's just pushed by himself without anyone helping him. Oops, Zywu just pushed without anybody helping him. Oh, let's look at on. Oh, Exertion just did it too. It's like there's all these points in rounds where you could say that these are bad moments where they're just creating losing situations. They're just taking but then you see all those ones, and most of them you'll forget. Most of those individual pushes that just net you information or even a kill, you'll forget it. But if the guy pushes and dies, now you'll remember it. And sometimes the Mongols players earlier in the year just weren't quite as sharp. Nowadays, you might even look at Vitality games in the way that they lost to the Mongols or have dropped series to MOUZ as well, and you'll say, wow, look at all the mistakes they're making. But it's like, it's kind of sometimes the difference in Counter-Strike between a mistake and a win is, it's sad, but it really is the case. It's just, did you kill him? Like, did you actually get the kill or not get the kill? It's like the macro elements are sometimes usually there's theory behind so many of things that the top teams are doing, but then most of the time we're pretty results oriented as much as we try not to be.
There's a guy on Last Free Nation that I do actually, they show some of the insight, the old show I did with Monty, but Monty had to like retire to do all the business stuff. There's a guy I do my show with called Yamato Cannon in League of Legends, who was a long-time coach in the European League of Legends. And he actually came up with a concept I think is the first person I've ever heard actually articulate this in esports, but I think it's actually really relevant to what we're talking about now. It's a really interesting concept. What he did was, in the game League of Legends, people do the same thing. When they talk about macro concepts, and you have to remember that's a game with no timeouts, because each game is just one entity. It's a game until you blow up the other guy's base. So the problem with that game is it's actually the hardest game in theory to coach, because essentially all you're doing as a coach is preparing them and then letting it go. You can never in any way interact with the game. You can't even do what you do in sports. Like even in football, you can just shout from the sideline if you're a manager and be like, hey, attack more or whatever. You can't do anything like that. So in League, people always super harshly criticize the macro decisions of the team in exactly this way. Like they want you to all be perfect robots that only ever do, like in the CS analogy, Astralis, positive EV players, and you're always doing the right mathematical player, which by the way, even Astralis didn't really do that. In fact, part of their genius was knowing when to throw those rules away, like against Team Liquid, and make like a super ballsy push that you shouldn't make through a smoke or something. Like that's actually even sort of part of the meta game. But essentially, his lens he came up with was, instead of thinking, is this team good or bad at macro, he would say to him there's like a spectrum, and the two ends of the spectrum are activity and precision. And the notion goes, the more you go to one or the other, you're going to get less of the other. So the idea is, if you want to be incredibly precise, be like the perfect man, be the old Astralis, whatever Vitality was in the first season, in doing so, you're going to be quite predictable, and you're going to have to actually do like a very simple, like a sort of streamlined game plan, basically, where everyone can follow exactly where they are completely. But if on the other end, because famously this is more how like that style, like perfection is more like how Koreans play League of Legends, basically. Well, basically the other major region in League of Legends is China. And they play what in CS would be the equivalent of playing the brawl style. Like they just fight all the time. But they're not doing it because they're idiots. They've understood this concept he's saying of their whole shit is activity. Their idea is they're not going to wait for like the one perfect moment in a game to win the game or do these small like tiny advantages that add up. They're going to constantly look for like weak points in the game in the same way as like a boxer. The best way to box is probably how Floyd Mayweather did. You just point fight and you don't take any chances. But there's the style of boxing where you go for all crazy haymakers and wild punches, and tell you what, sometimes you are going to completely knock someone the fuck out doing that, even if it means you will get knocked out. So I actually think it's the same concept, because I always say the real reason why you can't ever play a perfect CS like some people want you to is actually to tie into what Vu said at the beginning. If you really, I'll give you an example. You are rushing as T's the A bomb site on Dust 2. If you actually do what a noob I would say the caricature of Austin would say on his core stream of like, why did you not check that corner where the guy? No, when you rush on that site, every time you're gambling, certain spots you're not going to check, or the first two guys aren't going to check, because if you literally walked like really old school Astralis and checked every corner with two men and flashed off every corner, you would actually also probably win less rounds, because you'd reduce all the chances that you attack really quickly. You do things like get ahead of the utility, you catch the guy with the flash in his hand, all those things that are really messy. And then sometimes, like View says, you can look like an absolute dickhead, by the way, if you run in and the guy really is at that classic spot on like at the back of the fucking near the Gandalf part. If he's round that corner on that little thing and you don't check that one and he gets three in the back, you're going to look so stupid. But it's actually worth it counterintuitively, because every time he's not there and you didn't waste your time flashing that spot and running off, you get in the site like 3 seconds faster. And that probably wins you, I don't know, 15% more of the rounds or something. So I actually think this is a worthwhile topic to like bring up, as well as just like the way they win. Because I know what you mean. People do think MongolZ are just playing like noobs or something, which they're clearly not. They've opted into this playing style, It's clearly like how they want to envision the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to talk about this from a relation to Astralis is look at how Kerrigan played against Astralis with FaZe. And I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like on land best of 3. I think Kerrigan-led FaZe teams had a winning record against Prime Astralis.
They were one of the most successful squads, yes.
Yeah, and you know what Kerrigan said about that? He said the solution to beating Astralis is not to play like Astralis, it's to play the opposite. Yes. It's to play more random, make more individual plays, and catch them off guard.
Yes.
And when I think about CS now, I think players have all passed. They're all way beyond Astralis, understanding exactly how to play every scenario. And I think you got it completely right in that you said Astralis didn't play Astralis CS all the time. I think Glaive and sometimes Dupree, they knew when to make those plays. They knew when to make a random push that made no sense, because if you play standard, like perfect quote unquote CS, you're predictable.
Yes.
And teams realize that now. And I think there's like a level of, you kind of want to be a little bit less predictable than your opponent, but not like completely unpredictable is probably like optimal, I would say. And I think Vitality kind of found that, like found a special spot for that. But MongolZ have really gone into the, like, they're kind of more towards the unpredictable like side of things.
Yes.
And I think that works just fine. But the idea that like, yeah, I have heard the conversations about like fundamentals quite a bit, and I agree. Like if you watch if you just watch the game in general, fundamentally players don't play like perfect CS because they know their opponents know what perfect CS is. And if you look at a round breakdown, the nicest rounds to break down are the ones where everyone plays like, oh, this is fundamentally sound CS, and then you just see the round kind of, it just A, B, C, D, it just goes through a chain of events, and the team that got the opening kill wins. That's like how it normally goes. It's like, I think there's an extreme. Some teams have gotten to an extreme, and I've seen it recently, and I might bring this up at another point, where they're just so extreme towards randomness, they're just losing.
Why don't we just lead in? Here's the thing. Yeah. The next point is going to be your bad point, obviously. And essentially, this is what we're going to lead into. So you can just keep going if you want. Go into that.
Yeah. So my bad point, I had a lot of options here, but I had T sides at the moment I think are quite bad. And I think that it goes into this exact same idea where teams have tried to be super random, and they've tried. When I'm looking at T sides now, the T sides that I'm seeing be successful are T sides that go back to the fundamentals, actually, at least a little bit, in that they understand bringing a half together, making a half that's cohesive. Whereas like the topic of MongolZ, we brought up Aurora. Aurora is a team that it feels like they would just kind of randomly run it strat. They would just run it, execute, and then they would run another execute, and eventually they'd win and break the CT economy. And I think we're seeing that that's not working that much anymore. But we're still seeing MongolZ do quite well. And I think that's because that's like goes to the point that they're not playing random CS. They have very good ideas, and their players have played together for like what? Some of their players have played together like 4 years. Like they understand like, okay, pressure here. If he gets this kill, this is how the rotates are going to go. It's like it makes a lot of general sense. And I think you're seeing T sides that have. I think you're going to see a resurgence of good IGLs being very obvious, and actually being able to convert halves, convert rounds, instead of just hoping that you can run a random strat and it can work well. And it can like break the CT economy, because one round is no longer enough to break a CT economy.
I like the take already that good IGLs are back, because I said when CS2 was starting especially and MR12 was being implemented that it doesn't really matter if you have a good IGL anymore. I felt like we had a handful of fairly fraudulent in-game leaders that could just call completely randomly with very little thought to the actual strategy. And by virtue of just getting 3 kills per round or more, and then eventually winning a round, you will then reset the CT economy. And that almost just felt like something you would walk into eventually if you had a couple good entry fraggers and some incredibly basic executes. Now, the struggle to put together any semblance of a T side is bogging down even some of the better teams in the world. Even like Vitality's losing a lot of rounds on their T side as before, where they was just so indomitable. Like they could just get through anything. Even one of my favorite tactical teams, I know that I've kind of thrown them to the side a little bit, but 3D Max is actually a top 5 T side round win rate since Cologne started, by the way, guys. They're coming back. Like all the teams that actually have really cool ideas and good leaders are being rewarded for it, seemingly. And then the ones that kind of were playing this run your head through the wall CS, like Aurora / Eternal Fire, they are the ones that are being the most punished for trying to continue that style. And Aurora, unsurprisingly, since Cologne started, has the worst T-side round win percentage of any team in Tier 1 Counter-Strike, and it's by a pretty bad margin too.
Oh boy.
They're way down there. So I don't think it's a coincidence that now that the CT economy and Molotov are just moderately buffed, you can't just keep throwing yourselves at your opponents until finally you break through. I'm happy. In a way, this is a bad point for T sides, but in my eyes, it's a good point. It's a good thing.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
I wanted to ask actually. You mentioned on a desk one time about you call it the apexification of T sides. How do you think that how does that play?
I tell you what, he is good at marketing. I'll give him that. Wow, he knows his marketing angles, doesn't he? I know.
Yeah. Well, Vitality are still in the top 4, but I almost find that I think Apex's mid-rounding is still quite good, and I think that if an initial plan doesn't go well, they have plan Bs that they've drilled, and everybody is so adept at pivoting and changing up what needs to be done on the fly that they're still very capable. If it doesn't go perfectly, that they can just kind of run through. And also, the apexification for me wasn't just that you're running super basic strats, is that you're running a wide variety of strats with no conditioning from one round to the next. So there's still layers in what they do. They're not just running Hooksy, G2, Nico, go kill Banana, and then we're going to exec into the bomb site. They're still taking space in one side, taking space on another side, and then it's hard to guess what they're going to do next because half the rounds they're just going to go for the full play off of the first map control, and the other half of times they're going to reroute, take space somewhere else, leave a lurker, then they're going to try to converge with the lurker later in the round. They can play rounds from start to finish in a way that is much more comprehensive than Aurora, who were just 5-man deathballing, almost comically misuse of lurkers.
Yeah, I didn't mean that as a negative. I was just honestly wondering how if you think that's an effective style or if that they need to change.
I think it's effective if you know all these strats. Yeah, I think it still can be incredibly effective. I'd like to see more conditioning. I mean, that was one of the best parts of MR15. You'd be like, oh, okay. If you watch the macro elements of, especially when FaZe Clan or Astralis were in their prime with Kerrigan or Glaive leading, it was just oh, okay, they're triple mid, quadruple mid. Oh, now they're actually just going to go for this fake mid with some nades, and then they're going to actually do a B hit, just kind of rip that one out. They would go through these progressions that almost felt like you're watching a story unfold and tell itself before our eyes. And the apexification is a little bit more lifeless. It's almost more refinement culture of just, we have a really good strat book and we'll never let you know what's coming next.
Yeah, the funny thing is, one, it does seem like Mauisnake. Now it feels like, because he's not just one entity anymore, Vu. Now he has this little fucking circle of people, B-trams and all these stats nerds. It's like it is Mad Men. He's just getting them all in the room listen, we got a really big pitch tomorrow. We've got to land this client. And the idea is good, but it's all about him. How do we sell it? It's for kids. Some weird market angle on all this shit. It's working. The joke is, I always told him, the moment you had completely won the war, they can say anything. Apex can come at fucking Vu all he likes. The moment that Vitality themselves memed about the air quality, game over, motherfucker. That's back in the day when NIP literally printed NIP Magic shirts and wore them themselves. If you don't know, guys, when I came up with that, they were really mad at that. And they used to say, stop saying it. You're downplaying, that were really good. The joke is they were wearing the shirt 2 years later. That's when you've really won. That's some Gandhi shit. First they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win, or whatever the fuck that quote is. So anyway, you're doing a good job with that. The other thing is, I actually agree. Now I get why you did that hot take at the beginning of CS2 of actually, IGLs won't matter. You were right. Here's why you were right. Because the game became super T-sided. The AK is probably now far and away the best gun in the game, especially cost efficiency. And every map was almost T-sided. Almost every single map was T-sided, right? If you're a beginner and you didn't watch the games, you would think intuitively, IGLs must be super vital then, because the game's T-sided. No, it made T-side super watered down. And actually, Aurora is the best example. Because, bro, they have a lineup on paper you would think would win the T-side every time. But you go and look, despite all the series they won, mate, they were doing loads of the fragging. It was just people shooting people and they don't see T-side. They actually were kind of a bit average as fuck. Like you say, the win percentage is not particularly good on T-side. And that's considering, by the way, at one point in time when Anubis, they were literally probably minimum top 3 in the world on that map. And they used to play every series. So if you can't get T rounds on that, I'm sorry, there's a reason why I think your IGL might suck. And if I just look quickly now at the top 10, bro, this is why, if you're a fan, you just think we're haters now. We're not even analysts. Because listen to the top 8 teams, boys. I'll run through the top 8 and I'll just tell you who we don't give any credit as an IGL, even if you're in the top 8 in the world. So Vitality, you get credit, Apex. Everyone probably say you're the best IGL. Spirits, number 2. Nobody gives a flying fuck, Chopper. They even said maybe you should be kicked out of your team. Like, you win events, you're number 2 in the world. Again, except for B Vitality, I don't know what more you're supposed to do. But no, by the way, I don't either. You get no credit. I think you're just some mid-arse IGL that got donk. Then we go, you've got MOUZ. Brolan gets 0 fucking credit. You will never hear his name. People don't even mention him as an IGL. They almost talk like it's 5 fraggers. And like, it's like that's in League of Legends and there's no shot calling. Everyone's just doing whatever they do in the game. No one gives him any credit. And by the way, he's now done it himself. He's now beat Vitality. He's been in finals. He gets no credit. Then you go down. I think people do give Blitz credit, but apart of that's because he frags, by the way. I agree. They still think the fucking style's whack. It's mainly because he just can frag people. Navi gets it because Alexi B's won the major and he's finally got like his status, you know. Furia, I actually think no one gives Fallen any credit. I don't think people give a flying fuck. I think they think it's just Molodoi and Yekindar and Keserato. But his team is number 6 in the world. Like, they've been in a bunch of playoffs. FaZe, Carrigan probably gets like the royalty status. He probably gets to go then. Last one is Aurora. And I just said before, I think Magia actually finally, almost everyone's on my side on that one. They're actually sort of like, the joke would be, it's only because there are no fucking Turkish IGLs. Like, you'd be out of the team tomorrow, mate. Like, if we had this bunch of talent and this team was like Danish or something, this guy had been kicked last year, or he'd be kicked as soon as Anubis went up the map pulse. I agree. I actually do think if you look at it, actually, we haven't even needed good IGLs. Put it this way, low key, I do think this is where a lot of people's stock goes crazy up the next 2 seasons, like the Snappies of the world. By the way, this is actually where people like Kickstarter will find out how good you are. Shu here, I tell you what, this would be the perfect time to turn it all around. Like, some of these people can gain a lot. And even, one thing I'm quite interested in is, I don't know who it will be, but you know that list of people where out of the top 8, essentially the joke was, I actually had like, something like 4 or 5 people at the top 8 were not even given credit. I think it will eventually emerge. One of those people actually is a better IGL. Maybe it's even Brolan, by the way. Maybe Brolan has some feel for the T-side. We're going to find out it's good now. Or maybe actually Fallen is doing something with these players. It's not just people shooting. It'll also give someone credit. So I agree. Even though, by the way, I do think T-side right now is ass. I think it's pretty bad. This should actually make it really good, though. This is why I told people, counterintuitively, if you love T-sides, you want the game to be CT-sided on the maps, because that's when you get these awesome, like, you can see the guy who grinds out the 7 rounds then on T-side. He's a fucking monster. And also, on the conditioning point, this is also something people missed, Maui, which is when you go from 15 rounds to 12, Carrigan can't actually just go, oh, wait, so instead of the 28th round, I make the golden call. I just do it now on the 23rd. The reason he could do the golden call is he was conditioning them for the last 7 rounds. That golden call only works when you've really taken them all the way down the garden path of like, I do this, into this, into this, into the one time I don't is the most important round of the game. You can't do that after you did it once. You have to do it like 3 or 4 times. You even have to do things like chess move style, make them think that they're doing a counter that counters you, but that's what you wanted them to do next. That requires like a bunch of T rounds to work with. And crucially, you have to waste some of them sometimes to do that as well. You have to do the round where it's like, even if I lose this, it was worth it. In the same way as you play attrition with the economy, even if I lose this round, it's worth it to set up what can happen the rest of the game. That was lost from MR12, I do think. So I think at least we're getting closer to real CS now.
I'd say that's the last point about like losing a round. Sometimes if you're calling a strat, you're like, okay, we're not going to go here on an eco because we don't want him to change what he's going to do on the next gun round, which is when we're going to attack it. But I want to give some credit to an IGL that I think has done a really good job, and I think is going to, well, individually, he's really bad, but I think LNZ's calling in the game against Spirit, I think he was really, really good. In some of the games, in the games he played against, who was the other team? VP, I think he had some really good T-halves. I think when I'm looking at T-halves, I'm seeing a lot of teams, like the teams that would just be like, okay, we can't win the banana control battle on Inferno, for example. We're just going to avoid it, and we're just going to hope that they play enough safe from this that like we can just eventually and execute will win, and then we can snowball the half from there. I think that style's like losing, and you need to actually you build up the T half, you build up specific things that you can do, you showcase it, and then you go to something else. And I think LNZ is the most obvious kind of like lower tier team. I mean, they're still, I guess, arguably tier 1. They're what, top 20, I think, right now? They're 20th right now. Unfortunately, his fragging is really bad, but I'd say he's the most obvious person that has just popped off to me that their T-sides are really, really good and they understand the concept. But also, I mean, like, NAVI have had some really good T-sides, I think, despite losing. But obviously, FaZe have had some really good T-sides. But LNZ is the one I wanted to shout out. If we were gonna start shitting on IGLs, I'd at least give a positive point.
I'll also say as well, by the way, that is the weirdest one for me easily is the Carrigan one. I get the noob fan who just goes, he's trash at killing. That one I get. You are right. He is fucking terrible, mate. He can't kill anything. But I'll tell you what, when you consider his roster is this scuffed and he has that kind of, like, I think he had something like, by the way, I think he's like something like the 7th highest team win rate of the year. Like with that trash ass roster, like that actually implies something works about your T-Signs boys. Inexplicably. Okay.
I was going to say one point on FaZe is that they have I almost wanted to put them as one of my points because they have the weirdest roster layout of all time in that like Elige is just such a weird player. He's just so unbelievably good on T-side.
We will come back to this. It is a point later on, so don't worry. Just cork that for the moment. Right, Maui, what is your bad point?
My bad point is despite I feel like I've unfortunately have been picking on this team a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah, but out of love, you know what I mean? Sometimes when you want a team to be really good, you sort of want to like prod them to be better, right?
Yeah.
You know?
That's my angle for this one. It's just that we see these great aspects of GamerLegion and that they have these playoff runs, they win a couple upsets that you don't really expect them to, but there's always something that just holds them back. And really, I'm trying to think of it because you got some good riflers, okay? You got, like, PR and Rez are both great. I mean,
probably underrated.
If they had qualified for the major and done decently there, even like top 12 or something, I probably would have put one of them, if not both of them, in my top 20 list. But missing out on the biggest event of the year is really going to hurt you. Sure. And also, they didn't really have the best cologne either for themselves. And but I mean, like at Katowice, they caught my attention for sure, just making top 8. Just they took a map off Spirit at Kato, so there were a few moments for them where they could have really gained some good faith. Melbourne was probably one of their best finishes, just making the playoffs there. Either way, the one problem that I see that keeps plaguing this team is that they have had consistently some bad AWPers. Okay, they have had some really bad AWPers. So my bad point is pretty much just GamerLegion AWPers, and you could really take your pick from when you want to start this. But you could go all the way really back to 2023, even with their major run with Acor. Acor was pretty good at that major, so I'll give him credit there. But they almost built him up into shape, and I almost would give that more credit to like Shuhei being the op whisperer as he revitalized Torzi's career more than anything, actually. Sure. And then I would also say that Slend after Acor, sadly, just not that impressive, really. Like he clearly I wouldn't say even. Actually, I'm not going to go as far and say he clearly needed to be replaced, but you would have thought that there would have been better talent out there on the market. And unfortunately, the latest pickup for them in Kersey, Jesus Christ Almighty, this guy is horrendous. Like I can't understate enough that this guy has failed my eye test so badly that I feel like you could have actually at random picked someone from a CCT and you would have had a better AWPer. I think you pick any player, any AWPer on any team, and you would have probably gotten a better bang for your buck than this guy, because the amount of easy shots he misses is so unforgivable. At every tournament I watch him play, his movements are not really that impressive in terms of mid-round decision making. He goes for a lot of the typical starters that the best AWPers go for, but he just misses so many more shots on a regular basis than everybody else. So I get kicking Slend, the last couple events that he had, he was a problem for GamerLegion, but Kersey is like, I always have to find the one tier 1.5 guy that's just now it just draws my ire, and Kersey has unfortunately fallen right into there. This guy is he's really bad. Like I'm not even going to say like there's a lot of hope for him either, because he's 24 years old. Like he's 24 years old. He's 24. Slend was 20. To be fair to
this
Slend.
Is a joke, and he's French, but whatever. That's just a joke. Slend, listen. It's just a joke, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean,
the joke now being, I hope he's in the elevator with you at the next event. This fucking Kersey guy, just to recreate that skit from the beginning.
I just find it so weird that Ash would have went for this guy when I went through, I forgot when I went through a Gen 1 Kersey demo on stream. I forgot whether people asked me to do it, or maybe it was probably when he got picked up by GamerLegion, and I looked at it and I was like, he's just playing heaven and hell the whole round on nuke. Like he didn't go for any picks at all. Like he's just staying in the most like decent spot the whole round and not really actually moving around. And even watching him with GamerLegion, I feel like that's kind of what I got also. I was like, wow, this guy's just not that active, as nearly as active as I would want him to be. And he can't really impose himself with skill because he doesn't have high skill. And I feel like this is almost kind of like when Major became the in-game leader of Eternal Fire Aurora. It was kind of like, are we really? But like that was excusable because there was just no other options in the Turkish scene. I feel like if you're looking at the European circuit, there is an abundance. There are too many AWPers that are teenagers or in their young 20s that are just untapped at potential. But Kersey has been playing tier 2 CS for like 4 years now. Like I don't know how is this supposed to be the jump up or anything like that. Ash, I mean, to Ash's credit, I think he has a great eye for riflers. I think he has a very good eye for getting people like PR. I was actually, for some time when NIP was having trouble, I said Rez is really good and consistent to even be putting up these numbers on what is a dysfunctional team. Ash saw that. So and like again, I give Ash a lot of credit. The structure of GamerLegion's good. They have the ability to pull off upsets with good game planning. He gets really good riflers in the right positions and he helps them thrive. But his eye for AWPers has been that's probably been his Achilles heel, if I really actually have to take a whole look at his entire career.
I would say that I haven't watched specifically too much of Kersey, so I can't say too much about him, but I do question if that is maybe just the style of CS that Ash likes to play is kind of away from AWPers, and they want something specific from their AWPer. They want him to play a specific role. Because when I look at like the upsets that GamerLegion have been able to get, I've kind of questioned if they have been, maybe they're supposed to taper off, because teams now talk about GamerLegion. And like if you look at the game they took away from Spirit, I remember looking at this game specifically at Kato. They just did the most ridiculous first gun round of the game. They threw 0 like early round smokes against them, and then they just built the whole half off of that. And it's just like a very specific like upset style. And you look at them play against teams. I mean, Falcons mentioned this, that like the second time they played them, I can't remember what event. It might have been like ESL Pro League. I can't remember what event, but Falcons played them twice at one event. And they said after the first one, they didn't play well. They just like, they manipulate rotations a little bit. And then they just do a lot of like fake controller and then execute. And they played them another time, and since then, I think Falcons have just wiped the floor with GamerLegion. And I question if maybe you're right, maybe it is really just about the opping. Like the opping has gone so far downhill. But even looking at the riflers, like they're the only other team that has riflers that dominate on T side. Rez and PR. If you look at their T versus CT side stats with the new HLTV thing, it's unbelievable. Like their T sides are so much better than their CT sides. And so my question was kind of like, is this just the style that Ash likes to play? Like, is it a rifle focused style? You just want something specific out of the AWPer? Because I can't, like, just statistically, Kersey is obviously not very good, but I can't say anything about the eye test.
Okay. I will say the joke, obviously, to say here is this is why we were right all along. The team Ash should clearly be the coach / GM of is Team Liquid, because they also have never understood what the fuck to do with AWPers. That's called simple. Like they just put them on an island and just let them rot in it. Like then their whole style in every version of Team Liquid is, here's our 3 riflers that each do something different, but fuck the AWPer. So the joke is if there was ever a more perfect Team Liquid hire than this guy, I don't know who it is. No, I know what you mean, because it's the one obvious glaring hole in his teams. In fact, you look at any of the rosters he's had that were like sort of like, you know, upset merchants or whatever. Bro, if they'd have ever had, not even like a top AWPer, just like an AWPer with promise, they'd have been so much more dangerous. Think how many more games they could have won. Because I know what you mean. If you look at those players they've had, if you even go back, like Acor, that was even a miracle that he had that fucking run, boys. If you don't know, he basically survived in that latter era off the major before where he knocked out G2, where they had the fucking run against the Huxley squad. And then even at the major when they made it to the final, it was him that had the crazy stats, guys. If you go back, Acor does not have some like mind-blowing numbers. He just had some good shots he hit with the AWP. But that guy, I know from talking to a lot of his IGLs, was a really weird AWPer. Essentially, he was an AWPer that had like, because he's an AWPer, you should be a star, but he had the mentality of a support player, basically. Like he was the dreaded, like, I'm a support AWPer, which doesn't exist, by the way. That's just somebody who's bad that's allowed to buy the most expensive gun for some reason and then Skidoodle did win a major one time, and then we all pretend that's because he carried in the final, we pretend that's fine, which it isn't. It isn't fine. So that I agree with that one. The Slend one is the harsh one, because that one was someone who, at the time when GamerLegion had to do the reset and they were just playing a million tier 2 online games like BC Game does, he was doing fine at that level, like online tier 2. The problem was, I always said that guy never made it to LAN. If you ever watched On the Lands, he was like way worse, like half as good. Like he would just be irrelevant in most of the games. So I'm not surprised they booted him. And then the Kersey one, I have to say, this is just a complete whiff. At least the other ones, like the Acorn one, you're trying to reclaim someone who once might have been good, or, you know, if he can get his mind into the right place. The Slend guy, like I said, at least he was doing the business online at one point. I don't even know why they've done this Kersey move. This just feels like the ultimate reach. You've just tried to really dig right into the middle of nowhere. To be fair, I will add in, the problem Ash has, which is why, in my opinion, it was a mistake to stay with GamerLegion, is his actual strength of scouting players is actually negated by the fact that, like, everyone has an international team and every other tier 1.5 team is trying to get those players as soon as possible. So you can't really do what he did like a year and a half ago of like, I've had like 3 months to watch this player, he's the right player, pick him up. You almost have to just gamble immediately now. I mean, people come straight out of academies in the teams now. You don't even actually get to see them in the ecosystem. So it is going to get harder and harder and harder and harder to get these people. So the Kersey guy, I'm sorry, that's just a complete whiff. I don't know what you heard. Maybe some coach sold him on some angle behind the scenes or some, but like, put it this way, even though he now denies that recently they've been associated with the Grix guy, if you had actually been able to get like a Molodoi into this team, holy fuck would you be cooking right now, bro.
Yeah,
even the Grix guy, if he'd have come and he'd have been decent, you could have made him have his head in the right space. You could really do something with this squad, because I agree, even though AWP isn't that powerful anymore, it is still a relevant gun in the game. You have to have it. You have to there's a certain flaw you've got to have with that weapon, and unfortunately they don't have it in GamerLegion. I'm with you. That is a mistake.
I think this is going to be either an we're all going to respect Ash as the greatest coach of all time when he turns this player around, or I'm just looking at this tweet he made saying that Kersey has a lot of things to improve on, which he and we know about, but that doesn't mean we're looking to replace him. So they're like happy with, just statistically, like if you just look at the rounds he has the op, he just is nowhere near what you need from an opper in any way, shape, or form. So, and the op, I think, is the most statistically like balanced gun, in that HLTV rating historically, I think, has been essentially made for oppers. Like it has been very good at analyzing whether or not an opper is good. Kersey's not getting anything done when he has the op in hand. But it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that develops, because apparently Ash is happy with him. So maybe you're right. Maybe you can't get a good tier 2 opper anymore without spending a bunch of money. Maybe they spent their whole budget on PR and res, you know?
And the difference is, at least Ash is actually in our like protected circle, Maui, where he might DM us or come on a show and talk about it. He's not going to just snipe at us and go like, oh yeah, and then bring up a fucking game and destroy us like Apex. But I actually have one quick question for you, Maui. Was Magic's just trolling? Because I saw that clip where you like raid his channel and he's like, Maui is just a guy who knows nothing about the game and is just rage bait. Is he just trolling when he did that? Is that like, that can't be serious, surely?
Yeah. That's just trolling. I mean, we say
he delivered it so deadpan though, like he meant it seriously.
Well, because Magic's is like basically a walking soundboard. He kind of just repeats a few phrases and he just kind of keeps saying them. He'll always be like, this is truth nuke.
Oh, right.
He'll say anything truth nuke. Right. He'll be like noticing or you know nothing about the game. He has like a few phrases he just spams and admittedly they're pretty funny. But then that one I was kind of like, that's a weird way.
He delivered it really seriously, like he meant it. You know, like holy fuck! I thought we were cool with this guy. What the fuck?
Yeah, no, he's like incredibly sardonic, ironic, whatever, you know.
By the way, my favourite to this day, the only one I've ever enjoyed of like shit things that HLTV people say, is the one where you do the most minor thing. You're like either a great player or a great content creator or like really entertaining. You've done 100 things right. You do one tiny thing wrong and they go, I've lost all respect for you. Like, why? Not even just a tiny, just all respect. I'm just subhuman trash now. Like, I'm irredeemable. I have to just be exiled from society. That Magic's, you should start using that one, mate. Just say Maui, you've lost all respect for him. Like, just go with that angle. That's better. I like that one. It's good. Okay, anyway, now we'll go to my bad point. Right, my bad point is actually a little bit controversial because I actually think it's going to be about Navi. I actually think most people, despite their most recent results, do think Navi has actually like sort of taken a step in the right direction. Like the MongolZ pickup looks good actually. I thought that was I wasn't that familiar with that player. I watched like the King T video before, like everyone probably did. When I watched him in the games, it looks like it's working generally. I can see why they did that move. It even seems, by the way, like JL was the person whose head was out of the game, even though they had a lot of problems elsewhere. The reason I've picked it as bad though is not only am I doing it because the timing's perfect. Like, they've just bombed out of 2 tournaments where on paper you're supposed to just win these games. Remember, after the Cologne run, that looked like all signs are pointing up. Like, hey, maybe actually Navi's back. Like, maybe Navi's what I said about Mongols before. You don't have to actually beat the Spirits of the world. But I tell you what, if you're the gatekeeper and you only lose to MOUZ and Vitality and Spirit and maybe Falcons in the future, that's still okay for now. You know, that's still like all good holding position. I actually think it was like a mirage, guys. I think it was fool's gold. I actually do think this team had way bigger problems than just JL minus plus MongolZ. And I think those problems are only going to compound. And actually, when I look at the top 10 right now, it actually looks like we're starting to get other teams like, put it this way, people, the joke is this, that move, if it worked on paper, should have brought Navi closer to Mongols. If anything, I think Navi's going to fall down the top 10 and Mongols is going to go up, mate. Like, I could see this team, like, by the end of this season being like the 10th best team or something. I'm worried. Like, I have my concerns. I think the map pool's a fucking mess still. Also, by the way, I'm not usually a fan, you know this, of doing the, like, look at the player cams. Bro, the actual body language of this team is fucking dog shit, though. And that one player change did not fix it like it sometimes does. Like, so that wasn't just like jail or whatever was the one fucking them up. Like, they look like they themselves, like, I don't even think they believe this is the roster, man. I think this, I feel like this is almost like a dead team walking. I said it's a controversial take, though, so what are your thoughts, Phil, on Navi?
Yeah, I thought about this for a lot of last season, that I was like definitely in the minority that I thought JL was the kind of the problem. And I'd be interested to see exactly how his removal actually happened. Because I feel like they really set him up for success. And I've said this, I've never got a positive reinforcement for this take, but I will continue saying it, that I just think that he was constantly put in really, really positive engagements and just wasn't winning them. And you can bring MongolZ in, and I think he's done about as well or better than you could have expected from him. But the problem, I think, from Navi, I mean, they have like, I see their calling. I think their calling is really good. Their halves build out really effectively. But then I look at the players and they almost seem like, I mean, we kind of what we talked about earlier, like in terms of being perfect versus being random. I think they're stuck in limbo between the two. Like they can't decide if they want to play a 3v1 in the perfect style or they want to play it in the, you know, kind of like individual style. And so I see players that like they're just clearly on 2 completely separate pages. They're not peaking together. And so I see them lose like against 3D Max. I think they lost like 2 or maybe even 3 3v5s in one map that were just like one player is trying to play for the retake. They're like, there's one on Inferno I'm thinking of specifically. They're 4v2. One player lets them into B so they can play the retake, but then they go for the retake and the retake is just like, they're just on different pages in the retake. Or like a player like Wonderful somehow misses, he's kind of like got the Brokey thing where he just misses the shot at the exact moment when he needs to land the shot. But for the rest of the game, he's like pretty good. But they seem, the way I feel is like they lost faith in each other as individuals. Like one player is just not trusting his teammate to make the right play. So he tries to move outside of the system and make a play that he doesn't need to make. And then the other player is like trapped and he's like, okay, well, what do I do now? And then they so often have like 2 players that just make kind of a mistake in succession where you could have just, it could have worked perfectly if they just even just pugged it and played like just kind of more swingy. I don't know what the problem is though. I don't know even how you fix that. I think this is like a good bad point or like even an ugly point. Cause like, how do you fix it? Like they look, in theory, they do a lot of so many things right, but then they just, when you get into it, it's just they just not playing like a team like they did when they, you know, for so much of last year. This is not the Navi I remember. And I don't even have an idea how.
Listen, I know you mean rhetorically, how do you fix it? But listen, if you give me 20 minutes, a really nice cup of coffee for Blade, and a PowerPoint presentation where I go through Maui's points about him as fraudulent, I am Rio MVP, and then I just short a 10-minute Elige frag movie, I think I can fix it.
Yeah. I mean, actually, unironically, that was one of the best Maui takes I've ever.
It was a pretty good one. I can't lie, you nailed it.
I disagreed with the other half of that take because I think that it was trade and it's going to fix both their problems. I do think Elige for Navi would be an incredible play.
No, the joke was the trade was the ass part. It's like, how does that make FaZe better? Like, but listen, if it's like we're only giving a fuck about Navi, I actually think it's a banger take. It is. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Now,
that would actually,
That take was a few months ago, and now Kassad tweets that Elige should go to Navi. And then Dust2 writes an article about it, and it's like, that was my take. That was my take. But I mean, to contribute to it, I feel like, unfortunately, also Navi have a couple players that are really quite good, but they're just not that elite level, and everybody else just kind of also has that. I agree that the structure and even the way they build rounds, like they cause a bit of, they still can cause misdirection. They still get kills on opponents looking the wrong way. Their T sides, they're serving.
By the way, it's also another one of those teams where, like, they actually do win good T rounds. Their real problem is closing games out, guys. Like, that's their problem. They can put rounds on the board, they just can't win the game. Yeah.
So without having that superstar player that's supposed to play the most pivotal active position, you are always kind of playing with, you're basically having to strive for perfection. Yes. And that's why I was really hesitant, actually, kind of a tangent, but when I was making my most recent updated who are the best players of the year list, I think the most contentious player to not make it was Bit. A lot of people were frustrated that Bit wasn't on my list, actually, but I don't always see the games where he actually really brings them over the line. By the end of it, he'll actually have some pretty good numbers, but it just doesn't have that factor of getting them to that point. And it's never really a single man's task to just get it over for a team. But you would expect that if he's amongst the company that has now developed in the top 20 players.
He's also supposed to potentially be a generational player too, though, Mau. He's supposed to not just be an average player. On paper, he should be their best player, right?
On paper, I mean, he has the most skill. Yeah. I think he's easily the most skillful player on that team. Yeah, so I just don't always feel I mean, I see the impact in certain rounds, but it's just kind of, late round's a good way to frame it because it's, or late in a map, because it's not really just delivering them those pivotal 2 or 3 kills. I don't know if that's Navi forcing him into a certain type of situation, which you're really only guaranteed the one with, but I don't know. I would like to see Navi shake it up.
Put it this way.
I'm still there with the Elige take. I still would want Elige to be on this team.
Right. I will say I had zero anticipation they would lose to 3D Max. But put it this way, I even did cynically bet on Astralis in the Blast Bounty one. I thought that was there all day long, mate. Like, am I being too harsh? What do you actually think of, like, if you project forwards, both of you, what do you think of the future of this Navi? If they keep this, assuming it's this 5-man lineup and they're not bringing Legion or some big blockbuster move. By the way, as an aside, I'll just throw this out there. You know how I always made the point, Maui, that, like, as soon as Navi the org and Simple the player made it clear, like, I'm not playing with Russians or in a Russian team, we can stop doing the whole what if Donk joined Navi type thing. As far as I know, I won't speak out of school, I believe it's the case that, like, Zontix will not be joining Navi and they don't want to associate with him for reasons that are political that we don't need to get into. It's just about the way fucking the country works, basically. So what do you actually think? If this 5-man lineup of Navi plays out the rest of the season, what's your anticipation? Am I being too harsh? Do you have them doing better? Do they make a run? Boom? What do you think?
8th is probably a reasonable. The thing is, like, individually, I think they have a decent roster, but so many other teams they've just been growing, and Navi has been shrinking. Like, and I think Bit's a great one to point out because obviously everyone's going to talk about Ime. His fragging's not that great. They're going to talk about Wonderful. He's really kind of up and down. I think he's been pretty decent recently, but, like, he's had some pretty tough.
Even though, by the way, I'll acknowledge he's not a superstar AWPer, but whenever they say, like, Wonderful, I'm already out. I'm tapped out. I can't do this. This is garbage, guys. You guys suck.
Yeah, I think he's kind of carried by his rifling too. Like,
he's also a pretty good rifler, actually. Yeah, true.
Yeah. So it's just like Bits. The reason I think Bits like a good shout is because he is the one that I've seen I most attribute the idea of losing faith in the rest of the team to. Like, it feels like if I was to look at 2024, Bit played like perfect style CS. Like, he played so effectively, so many scenarios. And 2025, I feel like he gets a little antsy. Like, if I wait for my team to do this, we're gonna lose. So that's why I just feel like if they make a roster change, I feel like the upside is so huge. If they got a Liege on this team, that would make such a huge difference. Just to like shake up, because they've talked about it, like we know each other too well, like type of thing. Like I just think they need something to kind of shake up the identity a little bit and get everyone to buy back in, because that's what I kind of see right now, is that just the players don't necessarily believe in each other the way they did in 2024. Like they don't think they're going to win a close game. If it's 11-11, I feel like in their team speak, they're like, we've already fucking lost. It's over.
Also, I'll just throw this out there. I actually do think as well, this is one where the people in this team shouldn't be like Shaw's criticising them. Because aside from random people on HLTV writing Wonderful or saying images eco-frags, I actually get the sense, by the way, one of the reasons why all of us praised NAVI last year is, I think a lot of people, if you're a fan of like nerdy CS, then your favourite fucking team to watch. Like, I think everyone I know who's an analyst pulls for NAVI and wants the squad to work and respects Blade and thinks Alexi B is good and bits underrated and all. They want this team to be good. We actually want this team to like showcase what CS2 T-side can do, and fuck it. In fact, I even think the coolest thing last year is it even sort of counters the noobs, doesn't it? Like they didn't need to have MongoLZ or Don, they could still beat those teams even without that. That's actually sort of like the essence of CS. Whereas, yeah, the fan does just do like every basketball fan. They just give a fuck about the star player and how many points he scores and did he make an amazing shot. Like that is a very limited, reductive way of looking at CS though, which is a team game with tactics and utility. So I feel like also people want them to be good, which ties into a concept, boys, which is, isn't it bad when things that used to be good get updated and now they're worse? You'd want things that used to be good to be even better, like the new Raycon everyday earbuds. They already were excellent anyway. Great little earbuds, nice price point, really cheap, but at the same time half the price of other brands, but nice audio quality. Well, the best thing is now they've got active noise cancellation, so you can block out all the sounds around you and just really focus on the game, like certain people, maybe in Vitality right now, aren't even able to do, losing their fucking head, messaging analysts, messaging bloody Reddit mods, complaining about takes. Like, fuck. Mate, you are away, you just won the Grand Slam, mate. Like, fucking how many millions does it take before you can buy some human dignity? No, that's actually quite rude, and I like Apex. Apologies for that one, you know. It's just we désolé. But anyway, the point is, back on the Raycon shit, they are straight fire. They won't let you down, unlike Zimu in that last month or so, not doing his fucking job when he should have done, losing the bloody Mongols. No, sorry, I'm back on the Vitality thing. I meant to say, Raycons, though, are just excellent wherever you come from. Mongolia, France, America, Turkey. Debatable. You probably can't afford them if you're Turkish. Forget about that, actually. You know, stick with the Americans. Americans, you've got money. You've got disposable income. Also, they have 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery. So that you can just be listening to them all day long. You're quick to charge as usual. So how do you get these wonderful Raycon earbuds, you ask? Well, it's easy, guy asking that question. Just go to buyraycon.com/snake, it's on the screen, and get 20% off the fan favourite Everyday Earbuds Classic. That's 20% off Everyday Earbuds Classic at buyraycon.com/snake. Thank you to everyone who buys a pair. Thank you to Raycon for supporting the show. And if they ask you where you heard about them, just say Last Free Nation or Snake Banter. Right, okay, boys. One last set of points left. It is obviously the ugly points. So, Vu, what is ugly right now in CS?
I actually tried to buy one of your sponsors, Mando, and they don't ship to Canada, and it actually really bothered me, by the way.
I use their products every day.
Yeah, you sold it so well. Right. I wanted to buy it. And, okay. All right. Okay. Ugly. I actually.
Luckily, they weren't sponsoring this episode, so that's all good. We keep going.
I'm willing to fight on this one because I did see your episode with Yumi, and I think that this is probably counter to what you guys generally think. The narratives around roles, the role cell thing, and the trading of Magic's way to near Zontix.
What's your angle on this?
I actually think. I've said this before, but I've never been able to dive into it completely. I think that Zontix should have been replaced and not Magic's. And I'm round swing. Part of the reason I had it as my good point is because I was like, yes, it does say that Magic's is like not losing them games. Like statistically,
like
if you
he's
look
more
at
of
his
an impact
rating,
player to you than Zontix.
He's like a 0%. He wasn't losing them games, which with his roles I think was important. Right. But with Zontix, if you look at the roles that Zontix is in, he's supposed to do well, especially when you keep in mind that you have Magic's running out first, dying, then Donk getting 3 kills, and you have Shiro locking down every angle. I feel like Zontix is just always in these spots where he should be doing not a ton better, but just a bit better. He's just, I think there are quite a few players out there, there are at least a few players out there that could do Magic's job, or Zontix's job, sorry, better. Just a little bit better. Like, just better T-sides especially. I think he's a good CT side player, but more active and better T-sides. And so I always thought that Magic's was like, I think I saw it was way in the game they lost to Heroic. It's like, I think sometimes you play these passive like bitch roles essentially for so long that I think you lose confidence, and I think that's the concern. When you have someone that can do that, you have Magic's, I think fucking grab onto him and hold onto him for dear life. If he can play like the most bitch roles that don't even exist, like people don't really talk about like what you're gonna do at the beginning of the round is throw flashes for Donk, and then in the middle of the round you're gonna run out and die for Donk. Like that role doesn't exist. It's just,
it only exists if you're Donk's team.
Yeah.
Basically, is the joke.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, like we don't even have a word for the roles he was playing, and he was always on the same page with Donk. And I saw so many times in this game against Heroic that Donk would be going for a swing, Zwei wouldn't be there with him. Zwei was thinking of something completely different, and he's just not like built that up yet. So I was like, I so wish they still had Magic's, even though I'm not a huge Magic's fan. I still wish they had him, and I think Zontix he's a good player. He's a good player, but he's definitely replaceable. And I think when you put Zwei and Tenier together, I think that what they add, it more than makes up for what they're losing with Zontix. I think they can kind of like, I think there's a couple of roles where they might have a little bit of overlap, but the main thing for Zontix is not like, I think people get roles wrong. I think roles, I don't care where you play on the map. I care about your play style as a player. How many resources do you need? How aggressive are you? How many plays are you going to make? And I think you wanted a little bit more playmaking from the Spirit T side, especially. I think Tenier is exactly that. I think Zontix he had so many missed opportunities on T sides where it's like Donk is taking so many resources to deal with. He's getting so much done, and then Zontix is just kind of sitting there. And I just wanted a little bit more. And I think Tenier for Zontix is I think it's a great move. Obviously, after they win 2 events back to back, it looks bad and you can question it. But after getting eliminated by Heroic, I think it's the same thing.
Put it this way, to rewind though, one question I have to ask, I got a bit lost there, because you went from like the 1 move to the 2. Essentially, the point Yumi was trying to make was he would have done it the other way around. Like he would have just brought the Zwei in for Zontix and kept Magic's initially, and then who knows if there would have been a Tenier move. If you'd only initially had the Zwei move, you also would have done that. You'd have kept Magic's and just tried the Zontix for Zwei? Or is this only if you get Tenier as well?
I actually, I think I would have preferred to keep Magic's and replace. Right. I don't know if Zwei is perfect, but I would have preferred Tenier for Zwei for sure.
All right, if you could just do that 1 move in that case also.
Yeah, right. That would be the preferred move. But I think just in general, like the idea that you're going to replace Zwei with Tenier. Look, Tenier would do Zwei's job better, but like again, it's such a specific personality you require. I don't think Tenier is that player that to play those bitch roles and not complain about it, and not be a problem. Like I think you need him in Zontix's role. So the idea you replace Zwei with Tenier is I think bad. I think the conversation, people don't the reason it's ugly, people don't recognize what Magic's did, how hard it is to do that, not just for 1 event, to do that for months and months on end. It is impossible. People break. This is like Bane, they're born crafted in the fucking hellhole. Like this is such an insane job.
That's why if you ever watch that final where he has the life game, the reason it is really crazy, and I think did make almost any, you'd have to be like some Vitality really ruthless bastard to cut him after that, is because if you ever watch the life game he is also doing it from the most despicable dog shit CT positions and worst, like no gun on T side. Like he is literally just winning miracle rounds, but like an MP9 on CT side, like, and top fragging like the fucking game of the major final. So I know what you mean. Like, put it this way, he was an underrated player.
His CT sides were so good, like, so good. Okay, I'm overrating it.
No,
CT sides,
you said it.
He just didn't make mistakes.
You said it well before. Essentially, he was a floor raiser. I know what you mean. It's like, I agree. It's like you would think on paper he should be Sanji and his stats should be shit and he should be trash and all he does is drop guns. He didn't. He definitely did. Like, for what he had, he got mad amount of play out of nothing, basically. And I agree, every normal
Zwei
player
is the
would
reason they lost against Heroic. The third map, I think Zwei was the reason they lost. Magic's never would have lost in the game like that. It just not like specific rounds. There was like 3 or 4 gun rounds. Zwei just made it clear he wasn't on the same page with his team. Magic's never would have lost that. Magic's would have been on the same page, even if he's not fragging as well. He was just a better role fit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was the least on board with the Zwei for Magic's move in the beginning. I mean, I made it an ugly point a few shows ago. They did end up winning more after that, but then again, I'm still sticking more or less with the point that I just don't think that if they had Magic's, it would have been that bad for them in some of these, because they're beating. But then I've been countered by the point that Magic's couldn't do this well versus MOUZ, but that's the only thing where I have seen pop-offs from Zwei versus MOUZ in particular. The last time they played them at the Bounty, he did very well, but the first couple times was not that. I mean, it didn't feel that good. I mean, I think people really rated it super highly, like that he was kind of keeping his head above water in the Cologne Grand Finals, but really, that whole series, he was +2 on KD. Like, it wasn't that impressive for me that he was doing that. The one that was at the Bounty was really good. He I think that might have been his best series in a Spirit jersey. So he did have a little bit more of the ceiling looked pretty high for some of those moments, but the game-to-game consistency for Zwei, it just feels like he's doing stuff that he still has to grit his teeth and just tough these things out with having, like, being the first in on certain plays that Spirit draws up with no utility to really support you. Like, that's what Magic's had to do on a few of their executes. Like, he was just going to sprint in first, and if he got a kill, great. And if he didn't get a kill, almost nobody would blame him. And so I felt like it was weird that they ended up actually blaming him. Like, that's why I was really kind of put off by the move. And was Zwei having to change some of his positions from what he was playing on Nemiga and getting some of the better, more active spots to then playing this kind of Magic's role. I didn't really see that he was going to slot into it super well. And I feel like I just didn't really get what the hype was exactly. Like, I mean, I watched a lot of Nemiga games at a couple majors or the RMR back for Shanghai, at the major itself. And yeah, he would have some good stats, but he was getting to bait people. He was getting to go in later. He was getting a lot, like, he was the one set up for with a lot of utility to be in some of these winning situations. And I thought, okay, like, that's great. He's a star on this team, and then he's gonna move to a support on the other team. This should be the predictable drop off in ability in stats that really kind of hits everybody when they make the leap from tier 2 to tier 1. I don't know. I mean, I feel like in general, I just probably would have never touched Zwei. I never would have, like, gotten close to making a move on him. But if that Tanier option was on the table earlier, I like your take. I like your take that if you did the 1-for-1 for Zontix, because yeah, like, Zontix sometimes not Zontix. Tanier just calls his own number sometimes in these positions where he's just like, okay, I feel confident about this, and he just wins fights that he otherwise shouldn't. And also, when he gets pushed, oh my god, like, the best thing about Tanier almost isn't the playmaking sometimes, it's that he's just gonna hold his side of the map and get a kill or two as they try to aggress on him. Whereas Zontix, on T sides especially, he just didn't always have that in him. He would so frequently just get run over by any kind of aggressive play going his direction, whereas, man, Tanier has really foiled a lot of CT side aggressions over the last year that I've seen, or 6 months or so.
Yeah, I should have phrased this a little bit better, because you're right. I did get kind of lost in the sauce. The idea is, like, Magic's for Zwei. I think people are underrating Magic's. Then the idea that Zontix is, like, too good to be replaced, I think is the one I take issue with. And so it's like Zontix for Tanier, I think, is a good trade. And I think in like, the combination, those two replacements, I think, make a lot of sense, as opposed to Zwei for Tanier. Yeah.
It's because the real problem to me is, like, people don't acknowledge that, like, Spirit has, like, the best round win percentage on T-side in the world, and the best player is Donk is probably the best on T-side. So what people miss is, you don't actually need that much extra on the T-side to win. So in my opinion, I know what you mean. Put it this way, if you only brought Tanier in and you still had Magic's, I'm pretty sure he alone just makes you like unbeatable on T-side at that point in time. Like, how would you ever lose? In this analogy, doesn't Donk just go in with someone else, trade or get 2 or 3 kills, and then the Tanae guys get 1 or 2 kills at the end of the round? That's it. You've solved it already. Whereas the biggest problem you had for Zontix, this is why I'm really torn about this player. I think it's actually one of the hardest players in Counter-Strike to analyse, because he is clearly a good player. Like, if people don't know, by the way, he has very good CT side stats. Like, he has some of the best in the world. His problem is, one, in this specific team spirit, he's just a bit irrelevant on C side. He just doesn't do it. And I think even on CT side, you need to like pair him with the right people. Like, I think a player like him, this is where people also miss. Notice this is the mistake I think Spirit's made with Zwei. They're acting like every player really can be plugged and played. Like, this is fucking baseball or something. You can just take their stats and put it in another team. I always think, like, especially if we're talking about CT spots, it depends who you're playing with. Like, I'll put it this way, I'll tell you who someone like Zontix will probably play really well with on CT side. Someone like Flames, where they've got like ants in the pants and they're constantly having to peek and, you know, push and try to do it. Someone like that, you put a boring ass bitch who just sits in the site and just holds an off angle. Like, that's probably a perfect pairing there. You probably like that dynamic probably like enables the strength of Flames and takes away his negative, you know. So I do think the downside for me is I always thought he was like a good player, but who was like misaligned to his team. Whereas actually, if anything, it might be the opposite with Magic. He's not a particularly good player, but he did sort of like do like, he did like the dirty work better than almost anyone you could imagine in Spirit. So the real issue, I think, is this. The reductive way to fix Spirit, if you're a fan, was Donk doesn't have enough firepower help, which is sort of true, but they just made it like an absolute statement. And so on T side, we need to see someone who can frag better. So the logic goes, and I think this is where I agree with you. I actually think the Zwei move is one of the weirdest pickups ever, because the Zwei move almost looks like you did that pickup thinking Tanae said no, and then he just said yes 2 weeks later, and you were like, oh, well, shit, get both of them then. Like, because this Zwei guy looks like you had a shortlist, and there's no way surely he was even top 3. Surely he was like 7th on the list. And it's like that story. If people don't know, the reason why years and years ago that MIBR team was whack, that had Stewie 2K and Tarek, is because I'm not joking. They were like 9th on a list of duos. Like, the list really did go every HLTV fan's list. It was like Flamey and Simple, Nico and this guy, fucking, you know, like, it shocks, and it like just went down like that, bro. And it's just like at the end, almost before you were like, oh, well, I guess there's nothing for me to buy in the store. You saw in a bargain bin, you were like, oh, Stewie 2K and Tarek, hey, they would have made you, didn't they? You just got them at the end, like, as an afterthought. But it wasn't who you planned to recruit, and you just had to try and make it work. So I know what you mean. I'll tell you why I think they recruited Zwei. I'm not even joking. I'm going to be really rude and reductive, but I think there's 2 reasons, mate. One is that story they've gone out of their way to tell in all these interviews on Russian websites goes that apparently before he joined Amiga, he asked to join Spirit Academy, right? That might sound like a nothing burger, right? I think the reason they're telling that story is I think in that sense that Zwei is like the dream fucking grandson of a boomer in America. You know where they go? You can't get a job. Just go down and hand in your resume. Tell them you're willing to start on Monday. He did the equivalent of that, foo. He went, hey, rather than even join a real pro team, I'd love to be in your academy and learn from you, Hallie. And he's like, this guy, I like the cut of this guy's jib. Because then also, I think that tricks you, by the way, into thinking, well, if he wants to join my academy, he must be a really malleable player that I can shape into whatever role I want. And then they've made, connected to that, the biggest mistake he can ever make in Counter-Strike, which is you look and you go, are you ready for the dreaded line? You go, he has pretty good mechanics, bro. This is the most boring fucking... if you ever watch American football, the line there is like arm talent for the quarterback. It's the most overrated metric there ever is, because like you'd have to be pretty shit for no one to ever mention any of your aim. And if all you've got is aim, and as you say, essentially, Vu, you have a player on Amiga who was set up to be as selfish as possible and maximise his aim, and then he's being told now play the ultimate bitch role where you give everything up and you get no resources, right? What's your aim even going to do for you there? Like, that's the weirdest part. So I know what you mean. It's like, even if you brought Zwei in, you probably should have brought him in and put him in a more pivotal role. So the whole thing's a mess to me. It's why I really do think if you could go back in time, you solve this problem easily. You ask. The real question is which do we replace, Magic's or Zontix? But you only bring Tanae in. You don't bring in Zwei as well. Like, that was they reached too far on that one, mate. And now they created a problem for themselves by winning 2 tournaments with him. You fucked yourself on that in a weird way, you know.
I think the point that like they probably thought like it makes the most sense to be they wanted to replace Zontix with Tanae. Tanae couldn't get out, they thought. And
you think maybe I've got another season or something? Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I think that makes the most sense. again, not because Zontix is bad. I think people like the pendulum swing there is kind of crazy. He's just not what you could have with all of the resources like around him, with how much pressure Donk takes, with all of these things.
Yeah.
I think you could just have someone could just be a little bit better. And I think, especially because I do think they've tried to use him a little more aggressively on their T sides recently, and he's just not. I don't think he's responded that well to it. I don't think it's worked out for him.
Also, mate, you know when fans do that thing where they're going, look at him, when he's lifted the trophy, he knows he's caught. He was doing that when they were winning the major and his job was totally secure. This guy, please don't tell me you think he suddenly became morose and has no aura. He never had any from day one. The joke is, when he was born, the doctor slapped his ass and he just went, I don't know, wah or something. What am I supposed to say? And then just went to sleep or something. Like, fucking hell, mate. This guy's never had any aura. He was like that even in their prime, boys. I know it looks like now he's just really sad because he knows he's fired. That's not it. I don't even know if that's true. He might even be the guy with, for all I know, Zontix is so auraless. Part of me even feels like he's on some like nihilist French philosopher shit. And he'll just be like, yeah, who cares anyway? I'm fucking fired. We're all going to die anyway. Who gives a shit? Like, I've won, I've lost. Who cares? Doesn't even mean anything to me. I don't even think he gets emotional like that. I don't even know if he has emotion. I told you he's a fucking replicant. He doesn't even have emotions. What are you talking about, guys? His whole style is to not have emotion and just shoot people in the body. He doesn't even care. And by the way, Vu, you also did some great marketing on that. Listen, motherfucker, you're half the reason this guy's fired. I even said this. I said, normally, by the way, if you go and look, Vu, at the LAN stats 2025, top 20, and you put CT side, those stats alone, just like for T-side with the Liege, those would save Zontix's job if every fan, because fans worship stats. But because you pointed out accurately that if you watch a POV, he doesn't even shoot motherfuckers in the head, everyone wants him fired. They all want to be like, even I shoot in the head, like, oh, I hate it so much. He's so much better than anyone watching this show. But that has low-key tanked his whole stock, bro. The thing about shoot. I mean, by the way, you also, I'm not joking, there's a real, like, 10% chance you also got Calix fired from his job. Even though that was the right kick. Charter's way better. You're actually, it's funny, Maui's getting blamed. He's just making good memes. You're actually, like, ruining people's careers with your fucking memes.
The Calix one was really bad, man. The Calix
because that video was even more compelling, bro. Like when he was short, he was actually aiming like a foot above their head in the game. It's like, why? Why? And the joke I always say is, it actually proved, Vu, that he has really good aim though, because he would like flick down and get the headshot and still get the headshot. And you were like, why not just aim a head high bullet? Anyway, we'll let that one go because I can't get into that again. I can't even put my brain in that thing. I can't do it. It's too much. Right, Maui.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know where we're going for this one, so tee it up.
Yeah, I mean, this has to be the big roster move of the middle of the season. I can't really foresee anything overtaking this unless Navi makes some kind of crazy shift in their lineup. But the whole situation with FaZe Clan is just all ugly to me right now. I can't find any real. I find very few positives in this, and I feel like FaZe right now are in a position where. Unfortunately, the core group of players on this team were incapable of pointing the finger at themselves. And I hate turning on FaZe because, I mean, I think they were probably my favorite team to watch over the last couple years. I always got excited when FaZe games were on because the way that they had a knack for making it the most compelling and competitive game, full of comebacks, full of staving off defeats. Like, they really... kind of brought romance to Counter-Strike, but for what they've done now in removing Elige and bringing on Jacob, this just feels like, are we really on the last legs in this fashion? Are we really gonna just give Rain one more 6-month season to see if he can prove himself again? Is Kerrigan capable of even leading a team in modern CS? Is Brokey not the problem, even though it looked like he clearly was the problem? Are we like trying to retcon what happened there about his benching before? Like how many different narratives are we having to change now to justify Elige being benched on this roster when he had, in the last 3 months, I think he might have had the best rating on the team. He definitely had the best T-side rating, that is. And over the year, he was the second best behind Frozen, who naturally will probably find a little bit more consistency given he gets to go in second a lot of times. Call his own number.
He literally trades him, yeah.
He's a trade. Yeah, he's trading Elige. He's literally trading the guy that's running in first, that's putting up already good numbers. I'm just disappointed in FaZe for doing this because I don't see this fixing their problems. I don't see Jacob. It was a guy that I looked into for Apogee at PGL Bucharest because they got in. They made it through the European qualifier. They beat a bunch of teams that were pretty well known, like OG, I think was who they played. It might have been them in the grand finals against them, but they played a bunch of kind of those tier 1.5, tier 2 teams, and they made it through. Looking at his game, I mean, hard to argue mechanically with what he's able to do. The fact that he's able to do it in an aggressive nature, but the thing is that Apogee played a very basic style that was very much just strat driven. It was almost like they, on certain maps, especially against tier 1 teams, they would kind of ignore the middle of any map because they just knew they were going to lose the map control battle. And then they just went into side hits. They went into a lot of side hits, and Jacob was the beneficiary for a lot of those hits. And I don't even really think that it almost sometimes felt like the strat won if they were winning more than always he won. And the other factor about this move is that Kerrigan's wife was the psychiatrist of his team. So I'm sure that is going to give him a vote of confidence that this guy's a good egg, that he's not actually going to, be a detrimental figure on the team. But come on, it's a downgrade in the server. This is a clear downgrade in the server, 1-for-1 Jacob for Elige. And I just think that there is just a misuse of talent on FaZe right now. And this is like, for the first time in quite some time, the one roster that Kerrigan couldn't solve. So I find that he's also on the downtrend as well.
I am willing to play a little bit of FaZe Defense Force here because they just have the most, like, the weirdest, like, combination of, like, skill in that Elige is just, like, really one of the best players out there on T-sides. It's really hard to find anyone better. His T-sides are unbelievable, and I think he's just not that good, I don't think, on CT side. Like, when he first joined the roster, he was definitely overplaying a lot of situations, and I feel like I still see the same thing where he's like not having faith in his teammates, maybe for good reason, like, to be fair, but he's not having faith in his teammates and kind of like losing them some rounds from time to time. And he's, if you look at his stats, like compared to the position he plays, he's underperforming the positions he plays on CT side, like by a decent margin. If you look at either buy rounds or not. Like Skybox says he's got a 1.17 on CT side. The comparison is 1.33 if you compare him to the top 5 teams out there based on his positions that he's playing. I just don't think he's a great CT side player, and I would be willing to maybe put this at least a little bit on Kerrigan, but it was actually the same thing on Complexity. He was in all of the spots that he wanted to be in, all of the best spots, and his CT side was just not very good. And if you look at FaZe, if you actually look at their CT side stats, I just had it on my screen a second ago, but if you look at their CT side stats, their whole team is just like bad on CT sides. Yep. They're like their average.
Even Broky's not that good, and normally the AWPers farm the CT, you know.
Yeah, and maybe you could say that there's a little bit to do with like, okay, if you don't have a great AWPer, maybe it makes it a little bit harder. But that, like, if we look at the CT side stats, what is it? Frozen, it's a 1.3 last 3 months. Everyone else, Brokey's 1.08, Elige is 1.02 on HLTV CT side. And I think the problem that I'm seeing is that I've heard suggestion that he was kind of like asking for more control and for more resources. And I think Elige might just not adequately or accurately, define his own abilities. And so I think he puts himself in these spots on CT side that maybe he shouldn't be in. And I think that it's very possible that Kerrigan's like, look, we need to change this, and Elige just didn't want to change. That's kind of the impression I got based on like their interviews and stuff. Obviously, I don't have like any inside info, but it's weird because individually, of course, FaZe should have been doing better. They definitely, I can't disagree that they should have been doing better with the firepower they had, but I just think they just had such a weird amalgamation of players in terms of like their abilities on T and CT side. Their only good CT player is Frozen. It's just one person. Like, how do you win? How do you win with that? I don't know. And I can't speak much to Jacob because I really haven't looked at him play, but I can see why they'd want to remove Elige. I could see them thinking that they could have a better fit in terms of like someone that could just be a little more static on both sides. They could still find ways to win on T side. They're a little bit better on CT side maybe. But yeah, I mean, obviously there are a couple of other more notable players that you would probably remove if you're talking about firepower. I just think that Sponge was fucking right. That's how I'll put it. Sponge was right. When the rounds break down, when you get into these chaotic rounds, FaZe just find ways to lose all the time now. And they used to find ways to win. And if they think that replacing Elige could fix that, they got to do something. I mean, just doing the same thing isn't working, you know? So that's why I respect the move. I think it could help them on CT side, and it could help them fix this kind of like the FaZe magic is gone.
No, I mean, I do vibe with that a bit. Like, first of all, though, there are a few angles that need to be addressed. Like, first of all, I'll do it. I won't do the whole thing I did this in my videos. I'll do a short version. Just like the jail move, please stop seeing these are mutual moves. Like, here's my analogy, right? Imagine in your relationship, your girlfriend, who knows why, this is a completely fantastical scenario, would never happen to any of us. This is just pure hypothetical. Imagine your girlfriend said, the problem is our sex life is really shit in this relationship, and that's really important to me. I need to feel connected sexually to someone, like we're compatible, and the problem is, I'm just going to be blunt, your dick is too small. I need someone with a bigger tool who knows what they're doing with it and can really make me come. Now here's the problem. You could then say to all your friends in the pub, to not make it awkward, oh, it was mutual, because technically it was, right? She needed someone with a bigger dick. You feel bad that you're now in a relationship and don't have a big enough dick, so mutually you both know you have to part ways. That's not mutual. She basically chose that. You had to just deal with it, and you just coped that it was mutual. So the same thing, right? I'm sorry, I don't believe actually that GL did go, actually, you know what? Coincidentally, to me playing like shit for the last 6 months, I think I should just be on the bench / not even play CS anymore, and you recruit a guy from the academy. I think what happened there was they were like, JL, you have to be benched, but we'll be nice to you and say you can say it was mutual. So even if, as you say, the story goes, Elijah's like not playing well enough on CT, and he goes, I need better roles, or, you know, a switch up in the dynamic. If then Carrigan and FaZe basically go, no, then in a sense you've mutually parted ways, but actually what's happened there is they fired you because you can't play the way on CT that you need to, apparently, for the relationship to continue on. So to me, this looks way more like, even if Elige had some role in it, it's just FaZe's decision. Because the other reason why this movie has to be ugly, I agree with putting it ugly, not good or bad, is because, bro, on paper, if you're making a triage list, Vu, like we can only fix 3 things, so we're going to put the top 5 things we can fix, and we're going to get 3 done. Kick Elige out and bring in an unknown Polish player would never be even in the top 5. Never mind the 3 we're actually going to do. I mean, the joke is, having the name Jacob even sounds like some generic name that you would bring into complexity when Elige leaves. He's Polish, he's not from NA, but it just sounds like a generic ESEA invite level fucking name, like Jacob from New York City. You know, it's ridiculous. Like, it's absolute garbage. So anyway, I don't believe that, but I do agree that they had issues. Essentially, they didn't get the best Elige. I'm with you on that one. The problem I have is this. You're now going to surely give up what he gave you on T-side, though. The Jacob, by the way, I watched a few POVs. Here's what's funny. He does play some of the spots Elige plays, and he does actually have a similar style of play to Elige. He has very good spray, decent aim, but not insane. The problem is he just looks like a poor man's Elige. So the weirdest thing about this move to me is it does actually seem like that whole, like, Carrigan's wife is the sports psychologist of Betclic Apogee is a real factor. It sounds like almost she's been able to tell you, look, I've worked with this guy. He is essentially Elige without the ego, and he was just going to do what you tell him to do, but not as good. Like, on paper, that might sound good for the dynamic and the calling and all that. But the problem is, surely in the game, you're just going to have a worse T-side now. Like, the one thing you didn't want to give up as FaZe was this ridiculous T-side player, where that was the one thing you had nailed. You could even argue, by the way, boys, the game just became more T-sided. Like, surely this is the perfect time to have Elige. You've done it the wrong way around. Last season was when you needed to kick him. This season, he's probably even more valuable. So that's a bummer for me. And then also, I'll just put this out there. People do this thing where they go, and you know, Rain gave him all his spots. First of all, bullshit. You didn't watch the game. He definitely swapped some back later and was fucking terrible in them, and has been quite shit himself this last season. It's just he is CS royalty. Even though, by the way, I've got to say right now, I genuinely don't understand why Twists and Rain are CS royalty, but Elige isn't. Like, have I missed something? Rain wasn't even, like, that much earlier than Elige. Like, if I have to look at which is a greater play, if I'm doing, like, a Hall of Fame, Elige goes in before Rain. What are you talking about? Like, Rain's just a beloved player who sacrificed a lot as a role player, and everyone respects his longevity. Elige's a much greater player for me, so I don't get why Elige never gets any of the protection and gets, like, the benefit of the doubt, but, like, Rain just gets infinite benefit of the doubt. Like, no one ever wants that guy kicked, so I don't even get that. And I do think, by the way, Rain is one of the players with Brokey who let the squad down this year. Because the last thing I'll say is this. I also feel, I did the whole rant up in my video, so I won't make a whole thing here. it. I also feel like if you're a Liege, you got sold the biggest false bill of goods of all time when you joined this team. Because you joined VOO on some shit of like, hey, I'll just do what Twists did. I grinded all that time for a stupid N80. Why don't I just go to Europe and play with all these legends and I get to win everything? But I always say this, as I said in my video, you didn't get the same Brokey and fucking reign he got, mate. He got the reign that was the MVP of a major. He had Brokey that was like smurfing Katowice and for real was actually like winning like insane mid-rounds. He didn't get those players. He came into a totally different squad where actually everyone in the whole squad, even though again, he's not even the biggest name of all time, everyone's turned around like Nico and gone, why don't you play better? That's the whole fucking answer. It's like, we're drag more release. Like, fucking hell. And meanwhile, I think the problem... Here's why this is ugly to finish. This move doesn't even matter. Even if this player ended up being 10% better than a Liege, it doesn't make any difference to FaZe. They don't win any tournaments because of it. They're not going to be number one. They're not going to fucking make a run at the major. Like, the worst part about this move is it's such a fucking small potatoes move as well. Like, I actually personally think it could make them worse, but even if it made them slightly better, does it really make them ultimately better? Not in a way that's meaningful, right? Also, because last thing to throw in there as well, as someone who always studies the map pool, I've said this before, it was the same with NAVI. The reason why I gave up on both NAVI and FaZe is because both of them already spent the last season trying everything with the map pool. They went everywhere they could, they tried every other pick they could, they tried fucking working on like outskirt maps, like Anubis was one that they worked on in both squads. They never could get an answer. So to me, this is like the last thing you can do is you just have to kick someone at the end. That's all you've got left.
I actually think that one of the things that makes this ugly is that I think there is a small chance that even this Jacob guy could make them, like they could just vibe better with it. I mean, that's always been FaZe's thing, that they've worked well in certain scenarios. They've never necessarily...
Even that though, bro, come on. Listen, I'm totally with Sponge. If you ask me, like, because actually, if people don't know, Rop seems really quiet, but he has that like weird sort of like undersold humour, you know, where he is like a funny guy and a bit of a troll and stuff, you know, and he can sort of let it out a bit in private. I get that Elise isn't that guy. He's more like the serious fucker who's eating an apple, just doing all his homework. Teacher, you forgot to ask for the homework. He's that guy, right? So I get that people don't vibe with that. But a random Polish guy that no one fucking knows has great vibes. Does it give me a break? What's he going to do? Fucking drink a load of vodka and start dancing on his head? What are you talking about? Why has he got vibes all of a sudden? Who's this fucker? But tell me a joke then, Jacob. Go on.
My guess is that if we're saying that they wanted to cut a Liege, then my guess is that they just think this guy's just going to listen and just do whatever they tell him. The reason I think it's really ugly, though, is that if they did do just as well or only a tiny bit worse or slightly better, then people are going to be like, well, Elige was the problem. And it's like, I wouldn't really go as far as to say Elige was the problem in that, like, he was... You could argue that he just didn't fit the team, but that's not his fault. Like, bro, you kind of knew who you were getting.
You guys surely please remember this. During that fucking PGL with the new call lineup with that run to the semis, people already were like, actually, this team is better without Elise. Like, nah, fuck y'all. Fuck every one of you. Get out the server right now. I hate all of you. I hate you all so much.
Yeah, that's the problem I have with it, is that, like, if they only do slightly worse, if people are going to be like, well... I mean, if they brought in a random Polish player and they're basically the same team, Elige was the problem. And it's like, dude, it's just Elige, if he's on the right team, he is like a transcendent talent on especially on T sides. He's unbelievable. It's just, he just needs the right team. And like FaZe wasn't that team. That's not his fault. But I think people are going to lay a lot of blame on Elige. I mean, unless they just crater out, which... is definitely
also
possible.
This just burns me so badly because the bait and switch is so gross. I went from like a month ago, I'm supposed to believe Simple's joining the fucking team. He's getting better and better each match, and who knows, maybe by the Budapest match, like win the major or something. Now I not only don't have Simple, I don't have Elige either, and I've got checks notes. Jacob and Brokey is back. Like, this is some nightmare fuel if you're a FaZe fan. I like FaZe. I don't fucking anymore, mate. I hate him now. I despise him.
I think Brokey might actually have better round swing since returning than Elige. Okay, it's not better. Okay, it's close, but it's not better.
I think we just leave on that. Just cut on that. Just leave on that note.
Well, we got yours. We got your point.
Wait, yeah, right. Actually, I didn't do my point. You're right, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. What did I pick for mine? Fuck, I had it in my mind there. What was it? Oh, I've got what it is. I've got what it is. This is actually one. By the way, during the time we recorded this, the match has finished between Falcons and MOUZ, and Falcons has beaten MOUZ, and so MOUZ is not going to make a run, and spoiler, they're not going to be playing Vitality in the final of EWC and winning it, etc. And so essentially, I actually want to just do MOUZ as my ugly point. And the reason why I've picked as my ugly point is because, like, if you think about it, right, I think that actually MOUZ has tricked everyone, right? The problem is this. They did, over the last 2 years, improve. What they did was, they used to, I always say this, it's never true, right, that they choked all the time last year. The problem they had was they chalked all the really big games against the best teams in the world and in the big finals, right? That was the issue. If there was an arena plus like another elite team that was also like, you know, challenging for the top spot, they would always lose to them. This year, it's more like, as long as it's not the final, they beat those teams, you know, like a third of the time, half the time. They beat the Falcons of the world and the Vitalities now even, some of the Spirits. They can beat all these teams. They just don't win still. My problem essentially is this. I actually think this is the team that I don't think has any potential. I think they have, I said this on Hot Take Point, I think they have completely plateaued in every sense. Like, by the way, they've already gotten almost everything out of all the players. They've done a really good job. Like, hasn't almost every player delivered what you'd hope they would? Like, general, like, Spinks Fags that you would want to. Torji took a step up. The map pool, by the way, is very good, but just not insane in any one area. Like, they've got a really strong map pool. They've got a good veto. They've got a good baseline level. They frag well. They've got really good CT sides. In general, they've even got decent experience. Like, I can't think of one area where you can, like, squeeze another drip out of MOUZ. And so the reason I picked this as my ugly spot is I feel like everyone wants to always believe in, just as we do in politics, we all want to believe in this myth of eternal growth, that you're always trying to improve and you can always get 5% better. And this guy can always get a little bit better. We can improve. And that if you do that, eventually everyone can sort of work their way to number one if they make it. I don't think it's true. I actually think the worst thing about this squad is, to tie into a point earlier, I don't think anyone does give Brawlline credit as an IGL, unfortunately. So I look at this squad and I genuinely ask myself, like, listen, good news is, this is why it's ugly. Good news is you really might just be the second or third best team for the rest of the season, by the way, right? At the end of the year, we might be saying MOUZ was the second best team of the year. The problem is, as it stands right now, you might win fuck all trophies and you might just be stuck at this level. And sadly, I do think that ruins the narrative for people. I think people always want you to be going up or down. I don't think they want you to just be staying the same and just be like kind of a known quantity. So for me, I'm actually worried this team plateaued and I don't know where they go. Do you have an angle for me, Vuk? Is there a way they get better? Do they ever become number one? Do they improve? What do they do?
That's the problem. I mean, you hit exactly my thoughts on MOUZ on the head, essentially. Like, where do you improve? I'd say Jimmy is not the same player. That's like the most obvious thing. He's not what he was last year. He's and not only that, but you look at Spirit and both of their last matches against Spirit, they targeted Jimmy, and Jimmy was a bit of a problem. Like on their CT sides, they went to like on their the grand final game matchup they had, they went B on Mirage like 3 or 4 times, and he just did not hold his weight. He didn't carry his weight at all. So like that's where they're missing something. But like you don't replace Jimmy. He's still a good player. He's just not what Jimmy was. And do you replace Brawlin? Like that's the next.
It's a big gamble, though, right?
Thing. Yeah. That is the only possibility, because I think their T sides have not looked good, and I just don't think that Brawlin can move away from the game plan effectively. I think he's got a game plan and he sticks to it and he goes from there. And his fragging is okay. Like for an IGL, I think his fragging is like pretty solid, but it's just not that. It's not enough, and it's not, his calling isn't good enough to make up for it. But at the same time, like, what are you expecting from this MOUZ roster? If you look at the players, like, are they supposed to be better than they are? No. I mean, they only lose to the teams that are better than them, like much better on paper. Like, are they supposed to beat Falcons?
Here's the difference. Fuck you know, back in the day when we had another classic one-sided rivalry like Team Liquid Astralis, on paper, a Team Liquid actually did underachieve. They probably should have beaten Astralis a bunch more times and won more. I would go the other way for you. I actually think MOUZ are overachievers. I think mad props to every person in this team. I think you killed it, bro. I remember it's a fucking academy squad that got promoted. Like, they shouldn't even be in this position. Like, they've done an amazing job, but everyone can't be number one. Sorry. You know,
I think the thing is NAVI got all the credit for getting so much out of players that shouldn't have done as well as they did, and MOUZ got kind of like in their shadow. But I think MOUZ is just as, if not more, impressive than that NAVI roster. Absolutely. In that, like, you're not supposed to get this out of like Torji, Jimmy, like, these are not players you're supposed to be getting this much out of. I think they've done an incredible job, but yeah, because of what we saw last year, we were hoping for more. I think you put it exactly. Like you expect eternal growth, but that's just not reality. Players wax and wane, teams wax and wane. It's unfortunate, and there's really nowhere. I don't replace Brawlin is the only idea, but I don't even know if that's going to make
with who. It's obvious question, right? With who?
Yeah. With Shuey, bring back Shuey.
I mean, Vu's take about Brolin as a leader is probably the best thing I've heard about Brolin and MOUZ's T-sides for a while. Just the fact that they start with that one game plan and then they just kind of get locked into it, and the lack of a mid-half adaptation kind of sometimes means that their T-side sort of trails off into not finding any success at all. The other aspect that I would remark on regarding MOUZ is just that the move to go for Spinks for Shuhei is just one of those swing and a miss, attempting to hit the home run with just your hardest swing possible, where a new IGL that's being just molded to be one in the middle of their career is generally going to see diminishing returns every single consecutive tournament. Like you basically have to win immediately, and then you have to collect as much favor with the fans that you can, or to try to prop yourself up to make yourself believe in that in-game leader. And that's kind of exactly what happened to Brolin, Electronic, and
holy shit, Maui, I just looked up their fucking round win percentage on T-side. It's fucking terrible, bro. What, they're down with like Liquid and Aurora? What the fuck? They're in like every semi-final. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I was bringing up at the end of last season during the Austin Major that it's just like predictably their first month with Brolin was their best. Then their later was getting it was basically like the first couple tournaments with Brolin was like 55% T-side round win. Then in the middle of the season it was 50. By the Austin Major it was 45, and now it's gotten worse because the game's gotten even more CT sided. And they're not the team that's upsetting the status quo regarding is the game too CC sided. They're the one that's playing into that, and then they're just faltering on that. So I don't really see a way for MOUZ to like. My front runner for Coach of the Year was actually Cyclone, as long as MOUZ kept going deep or having, continuing to find upsets against teams that I would say have better firepower. That's kind of hard to justify now because they're not really pulling off as many of those upsets. Yeah, they got the Vitality victory in Cologne, of course, but until they find some way to revamp themselves, I don't really see the answer for this. And I almost feel bad for Brolin. I almost actually feel bad for Brolin because I imagine that he'll be the next one scapegoated on this roster. They're going to look for somebody else to then either somebody is going to take the IGL role from him, or they're going to just find an IGL when in the first place he never really needed. He was just supposed to be the Frozen replacement. He was just supposed to be the impossible to replace Frozen substitute. And now he's just getting the short end of the stick. And I think this MOUZ roster has kind of come to a screeching halt at this point.
I'd say the one thing that concerned me is actually their game at Bounty against Spirit, is that Spirit played exactly the same, more or less like some slight adjustments as they did in the grand final just like a week prior. And MOUZ just looked lost, like they weren't expecting them to look the exact same. They didn't have solutions for what they already saw. That was really concerning for me. Otherwise, like MOUZ just generally, I think they perform. They perform as well as you could expect them to perform. We just got higher expectations than we should.
You can even say, by the way, that actually the direct Spirit matchup, even admittedly with Zwei changing, although that wasn't that big a difference, also shows that they're in trouble, because actually that was the team that they had in their pocket. They used to beat Spirit every time out the gate, actually, but now even Spirit beats them. Like, that just shows it's like going downhill slightly. Only slightly, but as I say, if you're number two, the question's always going to be, can you be number one, isn't it? I don't think they can, unfortunately.